Hey guys, welcome to My Dumb Questions on Air. I'm Danny, and who the hell are you guys, and how are you?
It's Cordero checking in, aka Mike AIDS. Hopefully not.
It's Shane over here. Happy, well, I can't say happy to be back, but happy to be back on the show.
Wow.
Which I don't know. To be fair, on the record, I don't know why we didn't do the show while I was gone. We could have done it. We could have done it. But no, happy to be back on the air and missed you guys. So I hope everything is well on your end. Danny, thank you for putting that hat on. You look fucking rough. You look like you had AIDS with that hat.
and it'll probably show up soon because it's not cold enough to keep a hat on too long. But you know,
speaking of cold enough.
Getting a haircut is it's not as easy as you think sometimes.
Was Giz busy?
He's always busy. Yeah, it's hard to outlast drug dealers, you know, as far as paying up. So it's really hard to get in on time. Yeah, you laugh, but it's true. How are you guys doing though? Welcome back to the States. It's just as bad as it was before you left.
Yeah. I know. Imagine
worse.
Being out of the.
There's a serial killer in my neighborhood.
Yeah, well, close enough to your neighborhood.
That's pretty bad.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
It is. It's getting weird out here.
I actually don't know.
There was
about
ever
that.
a time for us to switch to be a true crime podcast. Now is it?
Yeah, live from on location. At any moment, you might experience an actual crime, and this will be the definition of a true crime podcast because it will happen while you watch.
Yeah. But
Well,
yeah, everybody's pretty
we-
shaken up about it.
Say what?
Oh, go ahead.
I was
gonna say, everybody's
let's
pretty shaken up
jump into
about
that
it,
because
you know,
it's such a crazy story, and you are it's not quite in your neighborhood, but it's what, like 4 miles away.
not even.
It's
I think
because all you have to do. We rode our
Seminole
bikes
Heights
down
starts
there.
a mile north of my house.
Yeah, remember we went out we rode to the diner over there.
Yeah,
we had our bikes and stuff. We rode over there, and that is just a little bit north of you, like not even.
Yeah, MLK I think is the start of Seminole Heights.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like maybe a mile north of my house, but the killings are all going on. I think maybe 2, maybe 3 miles away. The general area of where all of the killings have taken place. So pretty far away, but still not far enough for everybody to feel comfortable walking around their neighborhoods at night and things like that. So at any time, this guy might just want to relocate. So.
I'm sorry, I keep on cutting you off. It's that delay. Like Danny and I have like a good thing, but yours, since it's coming in like seconds away. Anytime I talk, we kind of talk there.
It's funny because not to me, I hear it all at the same time, and it drives me insane. But it's fine.
What I was going to say is I know we touched on it a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know. Like at that point, it was just still sort of local news. Now it's literally national news.
We'll fill everybody in because
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
If Cordero, you just want to kind of fill everybody in. Like I know what's going on, but you are, as you said, a mile away from what's going on. So
yeah, the basically what's going on is there is a presumed gentleman walking around Seminole Heights and shooting random people in the middle of the night. Usually someone walking by themselves. He runs up behind them, kills them, and then runs off. And the cops have not found him yet. They have a general description of what the suspect might be, but that's just someone that they want in for questioning because they saw them on camera running away from where the shooting was taking place.
Like surveillance?
So that could have been someone who was just running away because they heard the shots. That could have been, that could have been any number of things. But that's the only lead that they have right now is that. So
how many people has he killed?
4. One woman, one woman and 3 men.
3 men. Yeah, and the last one was just 2 days ago. It was a guy who was walking to a church, I believe, because he helped feed the homeless. But he was going there like 4 a.m. and the guy walked up to him in the middle of the street, and I think people witnessed it. Am I right on that one?
Someone, there was at least one person that said that if the police had gotten there 5 minutes earlier, they could have stopped it.
5 minutes is a long time. So I wouldn't put that on like law enforcement failing to do what they need to do. I wouldn't
either, but I would make.
No, I don't think that's what they were saying. I think they were just saying that, like, no, this literally just happened. Not saying like if you guys had been on your jobs, then this would, but more so saying that, like, no, this guy is still close by,
I will, to one point on that though, is they know that there is a serial killer out there and 3 people have died. You would think that there would be more officers out there.
Well, that's
5 minutes is a long time though. I'm not saying like they didn't do their job, but the fact that there was something going on. This was 2 blocks from the memorial for the other people that got killed.
Yeah.
So that's a little crazy.
That is nuts. So have you seen any more police presence? I know it's not exactly by you, but you're close enough to witness it, right?
Yeah, there's definitely increased presence along Nebraska and Florida Ave, going, I'd say, from as far down as Florida, Nebraska, going all the way up to Bush. You're seeing more out there, but I don't know what it's like, after like 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? Like 6 is when most of these have taken place. So I don't know if they're kind of just out there when there's more people out, and then after midnight maybe they kind of go back to the skeleton crew or whatever. But yeah, right now that
seems strange to me because it was late at night or early in the morning when all the crimes were happening.
Yeah, all of them have been like around that time. The one guy, you mentioned the guy who was going to feed the homeless, and then there was another guy who was an autistic, I think he was 19 years old, and he'd just gotten off on the wrong bus stop. He wasn't even supposed to be over there, just made a human error, got off on the wrong stop, thinking like, this sucks, I gotta wait for the next bus. And then some lunatic is out there just literally just ruining so many people's lives, like for what,
Is this guy like so if it was a few weeks ago, then it sounds like he's getting a person once a week, once every 2 weeks roughly?
Took a break actually. Okay. He there was a bit of a gap, I think, 2-week gap between this one and the last one, or maybe even 3 weeks. I think it might have been like October 20 something, the last one before this one. So
I want to say it was like the 9th, the 13th, the 27th, and then the one that just happened. So it was like you said, maybe like a 2-week gap.
And everybody was concerned, obviously, about Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want a bunch of kids walking around a neighborhood that, like, a lot of, there's a lot of foot traffic through Seminole Heights, And I've heard people bring it up, because sometimes we go to like different open houses and things. I've heard folks bring it up, but I don't think it's really, if it is slowing down the housing market over there in Seminole Heights, no one's really talking about it yet, but I've heard a few people mention it, just, asking about it and in open houses and things, but it's definitely having an impact on the local economy. A lot of the local bars and things are seeing fewer people come in because it's a very walkable area. That's one of the things they take pride in Seminole Heights. So if you're a bar that's open until 2-3 in the morning or whatever, and you had a lot of people walking from their houses, they want to be out walking home during those hours, so it's slowing down a lot of business over there.
That's crazy. And real quick, Bananas, what's going on, man? We are happy to be back. Thanks for joining us again. We're just talking about these local murders. Is there any, obviously we barely know what this dude looks like, besides he definitely doesn't probably has any kind of vehicle, is what it sounds like, which is crazy.
They have a description of a suspect. They said a light-skinned black guy between 6 feet tall and 6'2", and he's a slim frame. So they're looking for Barack Obama.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's so broad. I think it was a few weeks ago, and I don't think it was related, but I got a notification, one of those Amber Alerts or whatever from I think I want to say it was Citrus Sheriff's Department, and it was as irresponsible as possible. It just said looking for a 5'5" or 5'7" black male. That's it. That's all it said. I was like, you just sent that to a bunch of iPhones nearby, and like, it just seemed super irresponsible when you don't have enough information like that. And that description you're giving is, I mean, it's pretty broad. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing to go on.
Yeah, there's a few, like Cordero was saying, there's a few images, like video, of a guy walking through the neighborhood. But like I said, no one knows if that's the guy.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, I guess, you really can't tell, because you can't tell race in the video. You can't even tell sex. You know, at one point they straight up said, we don't know if this is a male or a female. It could, you know, the dress is more male, but like the way the white guy was walking wasn't explicitly, you know, masculine, like male or female. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I think in reference to the housing market thing, that wouldn't surprise me in the short term that there would be some sort of downturn. Yeah. But this isn't like gang violence. You know what I mean? This is a one-off sort of, it means a serial killer, but it's a one-off, and there's not going to be this like plague of murders coming through. It's one guy doing this. So as soon as he's caught, people, I think, will take notice of that, and they'll realize, okay, it's not that the neighborhood is dangerous, it's that there's one lunatic there, you know?
And Bananas asked,
but it does.
Why is he killing? Is there anything in common with the victims?
No, there's nothing
so far, actually. There is one link that I've made outside of they all live in Seminole Heights, is I believe 3 out of 4 of the victims are black men. And I think that's possibly the biggest clue so far. You know, the first victim was a black man.
Though? Of the
over there
area?
Seminole Heights, no, I wouldn't say. You have little pockets, you know what I mean? But for the most part, it's there's not even really that many apartment complexes or anything in Seminole Heights. A few duplexes and in-law suites and things here and there. And then I think maybe like 2 apartment complexes closer to the east end. But for the most part, it's just houses, you know, in what would be considered Seminole Heights. But along Nebraska is for just prostitution and a bunch of other things, you know. Nebraska Ave it's what it's known for, you know. I've even seen people on Reddit talking about Tampa and mentioning Nebraska, and I was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. Just like,
they know.
There was there was a old HBO like documentary type of show that came on. It was called Hookers on the Point, and they had one about Nebraska Avenue.
Well, it's one of our big attractions here.
Yeah,
believe it or not.
But that being said, I mean, it's gotten a lot better over the years. I think people a lot of the times, and sometimes they're right, but they equate poverty with crime automatically, and that part of Nebraska Avenue is definitely poverty stricken, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's crime ridden. If the crime rate there is most likely higher than other places in the city, but it's nothing that's like astonishingly like high, where you're like, oh, you don't go there unless you just have this preconceived notion about the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, where you just equate being poor with high crime. I mean, I lived in that area for a long time, and maybe I just got, you know, comfortable with it or whatever, and it never even dawned on me. There was never a time when I was like riding my bike down Nebraska or wherever I was like, oh God, this is the moment. You know what I mean? I don't know now. Now, you know, I wouldn't catch myself in Seminole Heights after a certain point now, just because this guy, there's no rhyme or reason with him. Like, there was 3 black males, but the one white woman, and then one of them was actually a Latino male. He was a dark skinned Latino.
Was it really?
Yeah, his last name was like Naoba or something like that. The autistic gentleman. But I mean, I think that may, I was gonna say that may just be the demographics of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
you know, and nothing to do with,
or at
like,
least for the time that you know that these are occurring in the middle of the night. Maybe that's just
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess in the middle of the night, you are more likely, if you're going to just catch someone walking around by themselves in the middle of the night, to be a man just right from jump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A woman's probably not going to feel comfortable walking around 2 o'clock in the morning, or even if it's just going to feed the homeless, or you know what I mean. So yeah, I can see there's definitely reasons for the demographics so far to be skewed the way they are, but that's the only thing that the only thing I can put together outside of the neighborhood that they're actually occurring in. And I suspect the person lives in the neighborhood because they're able to kind of blend back in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To where so they have to be, after this happens, get back home, you know, pretty quickly.
And familiar with the area, you know, because that'll allow you to take certain paths. It kind of reminds me of the stuff that's happening over in, what is it, California? Northern area of California?
It wasn't there a mass shooting just there? Like 5 people dead, and plus the gunman?
Including the gunman.
Yeah.
It just kind of reminds me of that, where at least in that case we know the dude, as far, you know, like the sister said that he you know, has struggled with mental health his entire life. He should never have owned a gun, and we know that he was upset with his neighbor and he killed his neighbor. Actually, you're right, it did end up being 6 because he killed 4 in the rampage himself, but come to find out, I think I don't know if it was today or yesterday, they found out that the dude dug a hole in it, or lifted like boards in his living room, killed his wife, and put her in there like the previous Monday.
Wait, say that again.
They found out, they think Monday, the dude killed his wife and picked up the floorboards in his house and just put her in there and then covered it up. The sheriff just came out and said that, so I think that's where the 6 comes from. Crazies on the coast, yeah. California, Florida.
That's true. So, God, how long ago was the Las Vegas shooting?
2 weeks, maybe?
No,
it's been like a month. Las Vegas?
Really?
Yeah, it's been over
since
a month.
Vegas.
Yeah, because Vegas happened before I left.
Oh yeah, you're right. There was another one that was about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I was doing the math in my head. Like, in 3 mass shootings in the U.S., there have been, 80 people killed? By 3
Yeah,
people.
I mean, 60 of them are just Vegas, so it's a huge...
25 in Texas, though. 25. That's how crazy it's gotten, that 25 people can be killed in a day by one mass shooter, and we're like, yeah, but 60 people in Las Vegas, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so nuts. Like, that's unnatural. That shouldn't be the way that we sort of like talk about it. But that's nuts. Even if you
Most of them don't make the news.
Yeah, like no one's even talking about Texas
don't make
anymore.
the news.
Like the Texas shooting. Go on.
I think 8 is like the threshold for newsworthy, because I saw someone talking about it online, talking about the ones that get coverage and the ones that don't, and I think they broke it down to, like, unless there's another element that you can add to it, 8 seems to be the threshold to where, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But yeah, 8 seems to be, unless it's terrorism or if it's school or some kind of campus or the location is kind of noteworthy, but outside of that, it's not going to really make a lot of headlines.
Because it's too much of them. It's too many of them. It's too much noise. At some point, you know.
Yeah.
They probably have to draw the line and choose what to report on.
Yeah.
This is so crazy.
It's a shame.
Glad everybody could join us so we can break it down.
Yeah, we'll bring it back up. That's what we're all about, is talking about the current events and stuff. Yeah, it was... Sorry, I got hair in my mouth. No, I really didn't get the opportunity to talk to people about that subject in the way that I wanted. You know, one of the things I realized on my trip is that you know, when you go somewhere, you want to see the biggest cities. Those are the places that you want to visit most. But once you're there, it's more difficult to just start up a conversation with somebody about something like this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get the opportunity to talk to anybody about those sorts of things, because like Cordero was saying, is like ask people what they think about the U.S. in this sort of way. And you know, I really wanted to see like how do people see that? If we say, you know, we had 80 people were killed in 1 month by 3 people in the U.S. 80 people, and you know, we don't really react to it anymore. So it's sort of like how does somebody see us like that? One of the opportunities that I did get to have is we went to a pharmacy inside of Paris, and I was talking to the woman that was, you know, the pharmacist, and it was just funny talking to her about, like, she was super knowledgeable about everything we needed. Like all I needed was cough medicine, you know, for my girlfriend, and she was just super knowledgeable and all that. And then she got to talking about something else, about compression socks, because the flight back is like 11 hours. And she's like, yeah, we just have to measure your legs and make sure we get it perfect, because in the US you just go buy whatever the fuck, you know, over the counter. And here they're like, no, we just need to measure and make sure we get the perfect fit for you, because it's not a one size fits all sort of thing. And then they're like, is there a cost? It's like, yeah, there's a cost. It's like $40, which is like cheaper than we get over here. And, you know, and she's like, you can get this medicine, which is something that's like $110 in the US for literally $1.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And it was nuts. I was like, I looked at her and said, you actually care about people here? That's weird. She's like, I know. I've heard about things over there. And they honestly don't get it. It's so foreign to them.
I think you.
Shit, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I think if you don't go to larger pharmacies like Walgreens and CVS, you'll find, like, if you go to mom and pops, like smaller ones, they do seem to care a lot more. My wife had to pick something up recently for our daughter, and the people were just way more informative instead of just trying to get you in and out, you know.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that in the sense that like she was nicer, like she was nice. But I meant it in the sense on how, like, you could get the things that you need and not break the bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in that sense, the grand scale, not.
I said they were nice, not cheap.
Exactly.
Banana said it's sad how like people forget that stuff. I mean, I'm not even American, but I still remember the Boston bombing. Not sure if you guys do. Yes, and I mean, I'm first to admit that one of the reasons it's on my mind is, one, because these other things are occurring, and then you start thinking back of all the other events or terrorist attacks, or, you know, mass killings of any kind. So that definitely comes up, and as well as you know, I've been meaning to watch Patriots Day, I think is the name of it, which is kind of like it's a movie about the Boston bombing, but it's not like a documentary or anything like that.
With Mark Wahlberg, that's what that one is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but yeah, it's sad, but you know, I can't help but think of that. You know, for us being in Florida, the Pulse nightclub is very recent to us, and always on the back of our mind whenever we hear this stuff. So it's not uncommon. I just hope that other people kind of think about it. More importantly, you know, when voting season comes around, and we're, you know, because between now and all the prior mass shootings, as far back as you can think, we haven't done anything to change it. We're just like hoping it goes away, I guess. That was pretty funny. Apparently, when you unplugged, it just looped. It was like it's pretty good.
Speaking of which, you know what? I don't think that they're available. We're talking about not forgetting, and since we were also talking about me leaving, I know I sent you guys the pictures, and I visited while in Paris the office for Charlie Hebdo, which I don't know if Banana remembers, but the Charlie Hebdo killings happened in 2015. They they didn't go out of business. They, to their credit, were super resilient, and I'll get to that in a moment. But in 2015, the cover. Oh, cool, we did have them. The cover of their magazine it showed an image of the Prophet Muhammad, which is strictly forbidden.
Magazine.
Yeah, no. It's strictly forbidden in Islam. So two brothers who claim to be affiliated with, I don't know if it was ISIS or if it was like Al Qaeda, but it was a terrorist organization, powered their way into the Charlie Hebdo office and killed 12 people. Obviously, anytime there's a something like this, it's a tragedy. For me, in some way, shape, or form, it felt a little bit more. I wouldn't say like close to home because I didn't know these guys personally, but I take freedom of speech, especially in a satirical way, very serious. So I feel like nothing should be off limits, especially something that's, fictitious. You know what I mean? So I made my little pilgrimage over to the Charlie Hebdo office building, which is what Danny's showing right now. And these are all the murals that were on the building where the office is. What's so amazing about the people at Charlie Hebdo is that immediately after the killings, where all these gentlemen you see here, the editors and all the main people from the newspaper were killed, they came out with a new newspaper like literally days afterward. There were two different images they had. One of them was of a Parisian man who was kind of like dancing, and he had a glass of wine in his hand, but he had bullet holes in his stomach with the wine coming out. And it said, the translation said, "You have guns, fuck you, we have wine." And I thought that was like beautiful. Right?
Yeah.
The other one that was also powerful is the main editor here, which I think if you go back a couple of images, you don't have to, but he was in a couple of images before that. The gentleman, the first guy maybe, the second image that they released, and again to their credit, they released a cartoon image of him hugging Muhammad with tears coming out of his eyes. Like how powerful is that?
Yeah.
He just got killed by two lunatics because they drew a picture of the Prophet Muhammad, and they said, "Fuck you." Here's another one. They drew him again, and not only they drew him hugging the editor of the paper that just got killed, which is even more powerful because in a way it's sort of like it's a fuck you to them, but it's also sort of like a way of them saying, we're not going to let you make us prejudiced towards Islam because of it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just thought that was so amazing. So when I went down there, this was our last night in Paris, I believe, and my girlfriend really wanted to go to this building where, and I forget the name. She'll probably yell it to me. She was a famous a writer who used to work with a lot of the authors back in the day, and they would all meet up at this place in Paris. So we went over there and we checked out this building where she was, and this guy let us in into the apartment thing because it was locked and he had to buzz in, and we just kind of pointed at the plaque. I'm like, "Do you know anything about her?" And he was like, "Here, come on in." So we just walked through, and there's like a garden, and we just took pictures and everything for her. And that was sort of like the pilgrimage that she wanted to take because she has this wanderlust for the 1920s and the artists from the 1920s. So for me, the thing that I absolutely wanted to do before I left was to go take this trek to the office building where the Charlie Hebdo, the massacre happened essentially.
Yeah.
And the reason I call it a pilgrimage for two reasons. One, it was a pilgrimage in the sort that I felt it was some place that if I was in Paris, I thought it was, I wanted to go see it for myself. It felt like something I should do. The other thing I call it pilgrimage for is because I got on the wrong subway, and I think I got on the wrong bus, and I got turned around, and it took me fucking forever to get there. So, but it was. I'm glad I did it. I felt a little bit morbid doing it because, again, to their credit, they didn't even move out of that building.
Yeah.
They're still in there. And I was like down at the front of their building, and I'm like taking pictures and everything, and I'm thinking like, here's the video. I'm taking pictures and stuff, and I'm thinking to myself like, what do they think? What would they think if they saw me out here taking all these pictures and everything? And
I think that's what we told you. We said, you probably looking suspicious as hell.
Well, I don't think. I think I wasn't worried about them thinking that I looked suspicious, like in a malicious way. But the thing I was worried about is that they would walk downstairs, they'd see me taking pictures and everything, and think to themselves like, "This isn't a tourist attraction. This is where my friends were killed."
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
this isn't, like I said, like a murder tourist attraction, and I felt that, and I felt weird being down there. I wanted to get my pictures, obviously, because I think that people should see that there are these, great murals on the wall, and they even poke fun of themselves. Again, it's so funny. Like if you look at the one picture, they all have like these little Hitler mustaches.
Yeah, that
was done purposely by the artist that did it, to make it look like someone did put graffiti on it. But that's just like how they are. The one mural that I thought was the most beautiful was this really big one, and I think you saw. I took a picture of it, and it's in the video there. It takes up like half of a 4-story building, and what it is it's one of the editors, and he's looking into what I would deem to be heaven, and within it you see all these other writers. So you see like Shakespeare and whoever else it may be, and then the writer from Charlie Hebdo is standing on the outside looking in. And I thought that's wonderful. It's beautiful in the way that it's saying like, now he's in this place with all these other people that he looked up to. Yeah. And I thought that was great. Speaking of which, this is the actual where I went. I went and picked up an issue of Charlie Hebdo. I think it's released. I don't know if it's once a week or it might be once a month. But the guy who got this for me actually had to go open up a box and get it out for me because they didn't have any out on the racks.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. And this is Tariq Ramadan. I don't know exactly who he is, but he's peeing on someone. Like they're really like their jokes are like kind of like childish in a way, but it's not whether or not you
looks like Mad Magazine.
Exactly, it's like a more R-rated version of Mad Magazine because they actually shows his penis. I always do that. And I think no, he's not peeing on a Muslim woman. I can't read French all that well. Oh, this one says Tariq Ramadan is urinating on his victims. And that says something like something about my love. He's got something about Catalonia on the bottom there too. But that's just the whole point. It's not whether or not you deem them to be funny, but it's just knowing that nobody should be censored for something like that. If the God that you believe in is so weak that he can't take someone drawing a caricature of him, then I mean, if I was a religious person, I'd be like, God, this person fucking sucks. Why would I
funny
look
bone
up
to be
him?
Found?
But it is what it is. We have a comment here that says, so after all of those shootings, should America do like a ban or gun control on guns, or would that just make people buy more? I'll let you guys answer. I have my answer, but I've been doing a lot of talking.
It's going to be really hard because if the Second Amendment, we have a Second Amendment that allows its citizens to arm themselves, which we believe the original idea was to keep the government in check back then, to be able to defend ourselves if we found the government to no longer be serving the people. But that was a long time ago, and it's a little different now. I don't think you'll be able to ever do a complete ban in the United States. You just won't get the necessary votes to do that. I know other countries have done it and it's been successful, but I think they have a very different history. I mean, For sure, I think the first step we need to do is everybody that is going and purchasing a gun legally, which is often what occurs during mass shootings, is that they're evaluated as strictly as possible. If they have any signs of mental health or history of it, then they should be ineligible, regardless of the Second Amendment at that point. Just like the state constitution, different state constitutions say that you have the freedom to travel to and from, but that still requires you to get a license, and then getting a license also still requires you to be able to drive and not run into everything all the time. So there are limitations, and we're just afraid to deal with them, I guess. What do you think, Cordero?
I think even before we get to actual legislation, we need to get to a point where they're actually able to study the effects of, or the impact of gun violence. That's not even allowed right now, or at least it's not supported or funded by the government. There need to be government funded studies done so we can really see what the issue is, get down to the root of it, see what the approach is. Maybe the approach might surprise us all. Maybe it won't be some specific kind of legislation. Maybe it could be as simple as having health care, so people have access to mental health care. You know what I mean? Like it could be anything, but I think just first and foremost, we need to actually be proactive about it and start looking at and investing in it, so we can get a solution. You know what I mean? I think that's that's going to be the most important part, is us actually working towards that, rather than we always go back and forth about the Second Amendment and should it change? Should we do things to change it? Is it outdated? I mean, and even the idea of us not being able to change those things has always been weird to me. They're literally called amendments. So it's like, always found that to be odd. But yeah, I think we need to just look at the issue and actually invest in looking at the issue, because I don't know what the solution might be, but I know as of right now, I honestly can't say that we're doing everything we can to solve the issue. Mm-hmm. So.
And you said something very specific there that I think we can elaborate on, is as far as the research. And the CDC has tried to do research on the effects of guns and the people, but they've been shut down for the last 20 years by groups like the NRA and whatnot. They don't even want to study that may prove them right, or may prove them wrong, or will just give us a clearer picture of the actual effects. And we don't blah 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 blah, don't want to know.
Exactly.
All right, Shane, I know you've been holding it back, go ahead.
Oh no, the only thing I was going to say is in his comment says, so after all those shootings, should America do a gun ban or control on guns, or would that make people buy more guns? It absolutely would. Is the moment something comes up where there's some type of new gun legislation, the gun sales are going to go through the freaking roof. So
anytime
just
a
on
Democratic
that point,
president gets elected to
I think
to
after
presidency.
any mass shooting, the gun sales go up, because the people think, oh, this is the time they're going to go, get their legislation and put something through, So yeah, really all of the above. There would definitely be many people that would just buy more guns, and because they think people are going to take it from them. So it's really dumbfounding. I'm so confused at it, because people on both sides, I would go ahead and say on both sides. Even saying on both sides now just sounds so stupid after Trump said it.
On all sides.
It's funny you bring that up, because it was the sides of this issue. I know, because we talk about the Second Amendment, when it comes to this so often, people have the impression that this issue has been around since the Second Amendment came about. That's actually not the case. When the black were guns, people actually, and I believe it was in California, where they actually came up with gun laws to try to restrict gun use at the time. And this was back in the 60s or the 70s. So that recently people were open to the idea, you know. So it's interesting to see it come to this point where it's this two-sided issue where there's no budging, you know, on either side. I think it's more modern than we like to think.
Yeah, your microphone cut out, but for anybody that was listening, he was talking about the Black Panthers in the 70s in California. They got into, you know, where they were saying we want to carry our guns. The only reason I'm clarifying there, Cordero, is because like the moment you said Black Panthers, like the government cut your microphone out.
I was gonna say NSA swooped in and shut it down. Cordero, do you have the auto microphone adjustment turned on? Because I think it's going up and down. If it is,
let me come a little bit.
Little fire hot. While you do that, what were you gonna say, Shane?
Oh, I forgot. I don't think I was gonna say anything.
Sorry, guys. We're boring Shane again.
Yeah, no, I can't help. It's some weird thing. I have no idea. Like, I'm not tired, but I can't stop yawning. Anytime someone starts talking to me, literally anybody, I'll just start yawning.
That's a poor trait to have when you do
it really
a live
is,
streaming show.
Everyone looks at me like, hey, you know. A pretty simple question here. Banana asks, how is everyone? You know, I'll let Danny give it a go.
I am alive and well, so I try not to complain.
Very good.
Not rich, though.
I'm fresh off of vacation and came back, and now I'm just salty as hell. You know, back doing this job. It didn't take long. Like the first day
not this,
back,
this
I was
job.
Just like, no, not this job. I love doing this, but just coming back from my day job, I guess you could say, just salty as fuck. Like I thought, you know, you go on your vacation, you see more parts of the world that you never have been able to go to before, and then I get back, I'm like, nope, still fucking hate this shit. It just came with a series of its own sort of like just bullshit that I'll talk with you guys about offline, or maybe I talk about it here because who gives a fuck anymore? I kind of want to watch it. Like, I'll give you an example real quick, right? So
it's about to get serious.
I did about 2 months worth of work before I went on this trip, meaning that stuff that I needed to have done for December, I had it finished before I went out. So I decided, you know what, man, I'm going to be gone for 26 days. I'm going to be out of the country for 26 days. My laptop is one of the most precious personal items that I have. I don't want to bring it with me. I don't know, like I'm gonna be in and out of fucking airports.
Yeah, that's fair.
And shit like that. I don't want to bring it. So while I was gone, I get one email that, you know, they asked me to do something like a flyer or something. I was like, I don't have my laptop with me. I'm sorry, I can't help. One, I'm already like I'm away on work, right? So this isn't my vacation. I'm working. I'm just working out of the country. Two, before I left, it was explicitly told to me that if anything was needed, we would use these other avenues to get it taken care of. You wouldn't have to come to me for this. Three, I'm thinking to myself, hey, this is my personal fucking laptop. Right. I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. You know what I mean? Like,
including
I don't have to
bring
it with me. You don't pay for the laptop. You don't pay for the programs that I use on this laptop that I do all this for you with. So I had no qualms about not bringing this. However, that seemed to piss them off that I told them, hey, I don't have my computer with me. I can't do this for you. And that lingered for fucking, 4 fucking weeks, so that when I come back, I get this thing. He's like, why didn't you have your computer with me or with you? And I said, exactly. I was like, it's my personal computer. I was going to be gone for a month out of the country, in and out of airports. I didn't want to bring it. This thing cost me well over $1,000. I'd like it just to stay home for this trip. To which they responded, it's $1,000. If anything would have happened to your laptop, we would have paid for it.
Bullshit.
Blah blah blah. Blah. Yeah, 100% bullshit. Because
they didn't pay for it in the first place.
Exactly, and the dude is so fucking cheap. that there's no way that's going to happen. It would have been like, well, you know, you pay for it yourself, bring the receipt, maybe I'll do for half. Make sure, you know, show me that it was work related and it wasn't just some like accident that was your fault, like that type of bullshit. That is exactly what would have happened. And the other thing was like, as we're having this conversation, because we had these meetings, it was like more like sit downs. I had one, girlfriend had one, and then they almost, it wasn't even almost, it was like they were deliberately trying to make us feel guilty for taking a vacation. Right.
Wow.
They said, you know, something to the extent of, you know, time is of the essence. We have so many things that we're doing. I looked at them. I was like, then why did you let us take the vacation?
Yeah.
The response was, "Oh, you're young. I want you to go out and explore the world, whatever." And I'm just like, well, don't come back with this bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't make any sense. You can't make me feel guilty. And the one thing that really pissed me off, and if I look back on this and I say to myself, this is the straw that broke the camel's back, it was the comment that you took a vacation on my dime, is something he said. On his dime. Because he's the owner.
He understands how vacation works.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I'm like, I put in, you know, over 50 hours a week here. We get in before everyone, and 90% of the time we leave after everyone. And I wanted to be like, if you didn't want to get into the type of business where you give people vacation time, one, you don't give them vacation time. Two, you don't bitch about it afterward. That's your job. I don't go into a fucking McDonald's and be like, hey, there's no, you didn't put pickles on my burger, and the guy's like, you know, and I'm like, no, that's your fucking job. You put the pickles on the burger. You own this business, and you say people can get vacation time. That's your job. You give them fucking vacation time. You don't make them feel guilty for it. I'm not gonna go back into this McDonald's and be like, hey, you know, you're a real piece of shit for these pickles, you know. So that didn't make any sense to me. And it's also like the fact that he said it was on his dime is so
it's
belittling.
Like, not anymore, man. You earned that.
Exactly.
It wasn't his
that's what
anymore.
It's so belittling because we do bust our ass.
Yeah.
We bust our ass just as hard as anybody else. And to have someone say that to you, like we were just like skating through and we didn't deserve that time off, it's very disheartening, and it makes you feel like they just don't give a shit. But at the same time, it kind of shows their hand, knowing that they are really sort of like inept without you. They're sort of powerless. They don't know how to, they can't function as a full machine without you. So there's a part of me that's really gotten to this point where it's like, I really don't care anymore. I'm going to do my job. I'm not going to get some slacking point where I'm not doing my job. Yeah. One, because I have a guilt that would lay within me, but not only that, I simply don't have that sort of luxury, because the type of work that I do is time sensitive. So it's like I need 3 days for this, and then I get, you know, so but I
think it's more like you're calling their bluff.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know that it's sort of like when you have a pet. You know, an angry dog, say you have a pet German Shepherd, right? You know that angry dog could fucking rip your throat out if it wanted to. But the way that you train them is that you are the leader of the pack. You know what I mean? So they have it in their minds as a dog that they could be no better than you. You know what I mean? That dog needs that person to survive. You know what I mean? Where a dog could do whatever the fuck it wanted on its own. So in a way, I feel like that's sort of the dynamic that we have, is that we are the pets that don't realize like how much power we actually have. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not in the sense that we could take over and like do everything, but that if we left, the house of cards would fall.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, and that gives us a little bit more power, and it gives us a little bit of a comfort level to an extent, but it doesn't take away from the feeling that you have when you're working there, and it's so uneasy. And they ask you questions like, do you have passion anymore? And you're thinking to yourself, like I am. It's like, I used to. You were the ones that killed that.
Yeah. You might still have passion, just like Not
I have
here.
passion when I'm doing. I enjoy like the people that we're actually helping, and like when I go train, and I meet all these people from all over the states and all over the world, and they're just so like really appreciative of what you do. You know what I mean? Even if it's like the people that we trained in Bahrain this last opening, they had already been training for a long time. They knew exactly what they were doing. But it was the fact that they had somebody coming in from, the corporate office or whatever that wasn't yelling at them. They were there to be supportive. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And everyone was so appreciative of that. So there's rarely a time when I do these openings and I leave like, fuck these people. Like these were
these are the worst.
Yeah. It's not to say that it hasn't happened. I'm looking at you, Tennessee. But it usually is not the case. The people are usually wonderful, and I love working with them. The people that I work with on the road, and a couple of people that I work with at the office, I love those people. I would do anything for them. But there's this just like this this dynamic that I keep talking about that just kind of kills it all. Where it's when
it just goes to show that when you get to the top, the type of person you are up there really sets a tone for the work environment. Where if that person didn't exist and wasn't the kind of person they were, like you'd probably really enjoy every other aspect of your job, the people you work with and all that stuff, because the top is the problem.
Yeah, and it's there's so many. Hey, I can keep on talking about it. Yeah, it's just it's a real sore spot for me because I always looked at this, and it has been. I don't want to take that the wrong way. Like this is definitely it has been a great opportunity. It's been a great stepping stone. But that feeling of all right, it's time to move on has definitely hit, and it's going to happen. I'm I don't know how long it's going to be. 6 months, I think, is what I'm giving myself, when our lease is up here and then, we take off. But there's still like that feeling that I have where I'm like, shit, now I got to go find another job and then all that. And that sucks. But, that was holding me off for a while. But I think now it's sort of like, I'm comfortable with it. I'll take whatever faults come along with that, whatever, holes I might put myself into, but it's time to move on because it just mentally and physically it's damaging me. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've become such a grumpy and like just mean person over the past couple of years because of it, and made myself unhealthy just from the type of job that it is, and I'll take time where I'm trying to make myself feel a little bit better by eating myself to just what I mean, and it's noticeable. I actually, just from going on this little trip to Europe, I don't know how much weight I've lost, but I've definitely lost some fucking weight, and and it's weird. Happiness. Who knew that was the cure?
It still exists.
Turns out that wasn't sand you were breathing in; it was cocaine.
Yeah.
I just want to add to what you're saying, because I have a little bit of experience just from being in the industry. That was definitely one of the reasons why I couldn't work in the restaurant industry anymore. Is that people making you feel guilty for putting your own putting your family or your own issues above the job sometimes. And it's not like you're a doctor, when you have like a patient that you need to tend to, or like you're a firefighter and there's like no more firefighters or anything. You're a cook, there's another guy to cover your shift, there's other employees, but it's just the fact that they feel the need to make you feel guilty. That's the thing that I don't like, because it's one thing for you to say like, if I'm just trying to call off like last minute just cause, then you get chewed out for that, or you hear some shit for that. But if I have to take a day off, or I have to take a specific time off, like I have to leave at 4:00 today because I have a class at 5. You know what I mean? And I'm letting you know that ahead of time so you can schedule me around that. and you make me feel guilty when 4 o'clock comes around and it's busy and I have to go.
It's like, I guess you go.
Yeah, I have to go. What do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just, I always hated that. The fact that they're trying to make you feel guilty. I remember one guy we worked with had to pick his girlfriend up from the airport. And I don't know if you remember, Shane, you remember John, he's, the photographer now. Yeah.
Yeah, Weatherby, yeah.
And I think that was one of the reasons he actually stopped working there. He picked his girlfriend up from the airport, and he had worked the morning shift, but it was busy, so he was there at like 8 o'clock at night. And he was supposed to be gone already, but he was just working later because it was busy.
Right.
And he put him in a position where it was like, oh, well, you gotta choose, basically, and he
chose to pick up. Yeah.
He already had and I don't know behind the scenes if it was something else beyond that, but I know that was just something that I saw, go down that conversation, and I just felt like, man, that's shitty. You know what I mean? To put somebody in that situation. Yeah. But I've seen that happen just so many times where I was just can't deal with it,
Yeah.
Just that guilt. The same thing you said, Shane, is just, someone trying to tap into your guilt. It kind of it wears on your empathy a little bit over time.
Exactly. It just makes you not care. It felt demeaning. At no point did I feel guilty, but I did feel demeaned. And I think whatever their idea was behind that, it sort of backfired. You know what I mean? But yeah, so we have a couple of more comments from Bananas, who thank you, Banana, for hanging in there and chatting it up with us tonight. It says that you're going to America, I think,
for work.
You brought that up before, and you're from Germany, and you, I want to say it was like a car company or something. And then the second thing is, he says that, Danny, you need to look up Coyote Peterson.
I did.
Did you while we were talking? Let's see.
And I think it's not too far off. It's definitely. I actually watch this dude's YouTube videos. He's the guy that one I remember is he let like the worst stinging ants in the world sting him like a bunch of times or something like that.
All right.
But yeah,
so
he's
Steve Irwin, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Well, let's hope this has a happier ending.
Was that Was that the Switch, Cordero? Was it?
Yeah,
it was on. Yeah, I bet that was.
So I adjusted.
I think
there was a joke Norm Macdonald told. I think it was like the week that Steve Irwin died, and I believe he was on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and they were talking about that, and he was saying that, I'm reading the headlines, and he was saying like, the crocodile hunter died so young, and he was like 47 years old. He's like, Norm Macdonald was like, that's an old age for a crocodile hunt.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious, but then just thinking that was like the week he died just made it that much
There was
funnier.
a lot of people that got into some shit for making fun of him. I think that South Park obviously got it bad. I want to say Bill Maher did something too.
I think so. On Real Time, I think he made a joke in the monologue.
Yeah. This one thing, this wasn't purposely done by the Rays mascot, but this was in the season, I think when they went to the World Series. So obviously the Tampa Bay Rays, they were originally the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and there was a fan in the stands that handed the mascot for the Rays, who is named Raymond, obviously.
Ooh, creative.
He handed him a sign and snapped a photo, right, like quick as possible. So the photo has Raymond, the mascot for the Rays, holding a sign where I think he's actually giving it back, because I think he read it and he gave it back, but it looks like he's holding a sign, and it has 3 names on it because they're going through the playoffs at this time, and it says it says Yankees, Red Sox, and then Steve Irwin, and it has a little X through each one of them.
Oh. That's rough.
It was hilarious. My whole thing with that is because there were a lot of sensitive people that were like, "Oh, don't make fun of him." I was like, you know what, man? this guy literally did everything that he wanted to do in the world. He lived the life that he wanted, and he died living the life that he wanted. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when we make jokes about him, it's not at his expense. It's at the situation, because I don't think anyone in the world hates Steve Irwin. You know, he's likable. He was funny. He was charming. He didn't hate the animals. It wasn't like he was hunting them. He was, you know, he was telling the world about them.
Yeah.
He cared about those animals.
Respected them. Yeah.
He respected them. So I never felt like people should get offended by these jokes, because, you know, it's sort of like with Dale Earnhardt Sr., right? He died on the racetrack.
Yeah.
So he died doing
with his son.
Yeah,
and his son was like right on the track. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. But you know, I don't know if I could have the same feelings about Betty White since he's passed away. All right.
Listen, one day TP Poker's actually going to be right.
Allegations come out.
Yeah. You know, with each day that you type that, with each Thursday that Rip Betty White goes up, you come this much closer to actually being right.
Yeah. The day that
is the day he forgets is the day it happens. Don't stop typing it.
So, speaking of sexual harassment, why don't we talk about the sexual harassment bus is just fucking plowing through everybody? Poor choice of words, but accurate.
I don't really know where to start. So I think this initially, when did this initial wave start? Was it with? Could we say it started with the grab 'em by the pussy tapes, or do we say it started with Harvey Weinstein, or what?
I mean, go back further. I think Cosby started this gangster shit.
Okay. I started this rapist shit.
I think we just got to look at the spectrum. So we have to create a spectrum of this sexual harassment bus, and it's, you know, at the worst case it's Bill Cosby, where you're drugging and making women do things against their will, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what's the bottom of the spectrum.
I feel like
this Al Franken might be the lowest.
Yeah,
that's the bottom.
I'll give it, because he at least was just mocking. You know, he wasn't actually. And he is a comedian. It was a comedic tour. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying.
Can you guys see?
It's not Bill Cosby. It's all.
So I read about it, but I didn't really get to see or understand what exactly it was that he did. So can you guys explain that for me?
On Al Franken?
Al Franken. Yeah.
Well, there's two sides. Not two sides. There's two parts where I forget the young lady's name or whatever.
Leanne, I think.
Leanne something, yeah. They were on like a comedic tour, like when you visit troops overseas and you give them, you know, those time off of the real stuff so they can laugh and enjoy life for a moment again. And there was apparently, as far as words, said that there was some sort of flirting and words exchanged, but that's not, I guess, the hard evidence, because that's just, you know, he said she said part. But the part that is the hard evidence is there is a photo of Al Franken where Leanne is sleeping in like a vehicle. They were traveling on a flight or whatever, and she has like the Molly vest or whatever that you wear in military, that you can attach stuff to. And she was asleep, and it's a picture of him mocking, like he was going to touch her breast. In the photo, he isn't, and I don't think he ever did. She doesn't say that he did. It's just
it's a pose.
Yes, a pose.
The pose for the picture is him pretending he's about to grab her breast.
And so I know for sure that he obviously apologized and said that he doesn't remember. That was it. That he was trying to get her to rehearse a kiss, like it was SNL, and she's like, "You don't have to rehearse a kiss," you know, like. And she says that she was just gonna like make it funnier by like putting her hand over his mouth or turning the cheek real quick, because that'll be funnier for the crowds anyway, and it'll surprise him or whatever. And he just kept, I guess, trying to persuade her to practice this kiss, and then when they did, he like shoved his tongue down her throat or something, and obviously she didn't appreciate that appropriately, and so you know, he says that that part, you know, he doesn't remember it being that way, but the photo is, I think, is the part that people are like, oof, that's, you know, it shows the mocking on there. And so he called, you know, he apologized and he called for a ethics investigation on himself. But you know, one thing that's different from all the other ones, and I don't know, I think it was you, Cordero, that told me this, is that she accepted his apology, right?
Yeah, publicly. She accepted his apology,
which is not something you see.
Yeah, and
I think that's the first time I've seen this happen in these recent cases. I know with in Louis' case, he had reached out to the women years before, because all of his stuff happened like 2000 to 2005, like before he, you know, blew up. You know, basically he was just a writer on Conan back in those days, but they all happened then. He had apparently reached out to them and, you know, spoke to them before, but it just now got to the public, basically. But yeah, I think none of them have come out publicly and said that they accept the apology of the person, especially just immediately right after it's revealed, like a couple hours later, which is crazy.
It's especially with Louis, man, because with Al Franken, like you said, it's on the lower tier of things, which I feel hesitant on saying, because it's not how we perceive it, it's how the people who had it happen to them felt it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it could have been absolutely the worst thing for them, and we're, you know, talking about.
Yeah.
So there is it can seem, I think I lost my train of thought here. I like Al Franken a lot, and Louis C.K. is one of my favorite, like, you know, I consider, you know, comedians are artists, so I can say, you know, he's one of my favorite artists. I think he's funny. I think he's kind of got a brilliant mind. So that stings a bit to have, you know, somebody, you know, like those two guys sort of have that happen. I will say that as far as I can tell, they handled it the way that people should. Not saying that people should forgive them because of the way that they handled it, but they're not doing like what many of these other men have done, where they've said that didn't happen. No, they're liars. That
person's a liar. Yeah,
you know what I mean. They were like,
best yet, I'm gay.
Yeah,
just you get accused and you're like, hey, I'm gay, by the way.
Which, you know what, was, I saw like something that made a great point about the Kevin Spacey thing, was that by him saying that or coming out as gay right after this plays into this narrative that homosexual men are sex predators, you know,
and perverts.
Or they're perverts, which is just like bad timing, man. If you're gay, you're gay. Who cares? Honestly, the vast majority of people on you know, in the U.S. won't care. But when you're like, yeah, I touched them, but, you know, I'm gay. What can you do? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's shitty. Very
damaging. That's been the biggest like hurdle that I think the LGBT community has had to overcome in Western culture, is the association with perversion. You know, that's what they would call it, a perversion. You know, their sexuality. So for him to basically be found to be a pervert and then just say, you know, I'm gay, it's that's, to me, that's just extremely offensive, and probably
who said that?
The worst thing I said.
I missed that.
Kevin Spacey.
No.
Yeah, back in the 80s, he apparently was drunk and assaulted a 14-year-old boy. Was apparently what he said. He had been drinking or whatever, and the man now said that at the time that he came in and assaulted him. I don't know how far it went, but it definitely crossed the line with, you know, yeah, obviously. But in response to the accusation, he came out and said, you know, hey, I don't remember this, but I choose to live my life now as a gay man. Which is, I don't know how does the rough draft, that's like if you have like an assignment at 11:50, and you start typing at 11:45, you don't have time to think if your logic adds up or does this make sense. Fuck it, send. I gotta get the grade. Publishers just put that shit out there.
It's due.
Whoever's idea that, I hope they lost every client they possibly have, because that is just terrible.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I've never seen it, but like Netflix was like, "Hey, you're fired off of House of Cards. We know we have one more season. We'll figure it out."
Yeah.
And he's the guy. He's like, it's like if like fucking if Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld comes out, and they're just like, well, fuck it, no Seinfeld.
Yeah.
We'll still his apartment, but Jerry's not gonna be there ever.
See, and it's weird because like. I mean, the sexual harassment bus is like dangerous, and like just standing near it is scary. Where like now I'm like, holy crap! Like, do I need to watch House of Cards? Am I gonna miss something? Is Netflix gonna be that pissed off, or it should be like, it's gone, the history of it, gone? You know?
Yeah.
Or am I a bad person for wanting to watch House of Cards or whatever? You know, like. Or am I a bad person because, you know, when I heard Louis C.K. had some allegations coming out or whatever, I was upset, like, no, not Louis C.K. It could be anybody, not the people I actually, you know, like or, you know, kind of respect a lot, like as an artist, like you said, you know, I've been enjoying the hell out of Better Things season 2, which is produced by him, and
Baskets.
Yeah, and Baskets, and like, you know, he never seems to come off as disrespectful to women in Louis and Better Things, especially in Better Things. It's like a very empowering show for women, so I just didn't see that happening. And like I to be honest, the first time I said that, I was like, no, he's just a huge comedian. He's gonna be targeted. You know, he's like, what larger white comedian do you know right now? Exactly.
Bigger than Louis. Yeah.
So I'm not, like I said, I'm not defending him because I don't want to get hit by that bus, but it sucks.
Yeah. So I had that moment where I had to decide if I would still do things like, you know, and an artist came out, did something that I disagree with and I was offended by, would I still, you know, watch the show or listen to their music and things like that? When it comes to television and things like that, I don't know why it's just a little. I'm still willing to watch it, but I remember when Michael Richards came out and did his whole rant, which seems just tame these days, when he was on stage and he just drops the N-bomb and like reminisces about lynching and just like really. But I still watch Seinfeld, and I still laugh at Kramer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I can't. At this point, I can't not. I can't separate I can't separate the two, but because of everything else that goes into it and the amount of people who I'm positive have done, I just don't know about. I would just not watch anything. Yeah. You know, I would not watch anything because then it's just, I don't know. It feels weird to just stop watching it if you get caught. You know what I mean? Like, because I know there's more. Mm-hmm. I was telling Danny earlier, Shane, one person who hasn't come out, but I know it's coming, is Vince McMahon. There's no
from the
way
WWE.
Yeah.
Yes. There's no way Vince McMahon hasn't sexually assaulted someone.
Ugly, powerful, and runs all the women, wrestlers that join the WWE. It's like set up for sexual harassment.
Every female wrestler but Chyna has been on that couch.
Vince McMahon has a casting couch.
Like there's no. You look at is there any non-porn entertainment venue that's more sexualized than female wrestling? You know, they mud wrestle. They wrestle like KY jelly. Bikinis. Like they're not even subtle. I have no doubt in my mind that Vince McMahon has some shit out.
That's
there.
Crossed the line, yeah. The thing is, like, I don't know if female wrestlers are like a big enough like recognizable name for them to like come out and say that, because you know, this is great that all these women are feeling, and men actually, because of Terry Crews, and he actually named the executive that groped him finally, and you know, they're feeling like, you know, it's time and that they can all do this together and come out and show the world that that's not okay. But I just wonder, is wrestling still big enough where like people would hear it?
Yes, you know? Wrestling. I didn't realize this just because I don't watch wrestling. You know what I mean? But I realized last year wrestling is still fucking huge. Like a lot of people still watch wrestling. A lot of people still go to when they come to town and they do their, you know, the shows. They're sold out all the time. Yeah, like wrestling is still, it's still big. You know, and I thought it was dead. I thought it was dead like back in like 2005-ish or whatever. I was thinking like, no one's watching wrestling. Stone Cold, The Rock, none of those guys are really still involved like that. Yeah, and then John Cena out of fucking nowhere is huge. Randy Orton, Dave Bautista, all these guys after wrestling was supposedly dead. Yeah. You know, like wrestling is, it's just going to be one of those things that I think it's, if you're not interested in it, it's very easy to not come across it, you know what I mean, or at least not be aware that you're coming across it. But it's always going to have its audience. It's on its 5th decade now, just from the WWE.
Wow, I don't know, but that's a long time.
Yeah, I think like back in the Ric Flair days and all those guys are like 70 years old. Yeah, you know, so, and they were in it when they were late 20s, 30s, you know.
And here, like while you were talking about it, in the back of my head, I was just thinking like, maybe that demographic or those fans just aged with it, but obviously they're still pulling in new people. So I don't think that's accurate. Yep.
So many kids in there, and then you think about how many big superstars are still. I mean, honestly, in order for I think the women in wrestling to come and speak out, I think you just need one upstanding guy superstar to have their back. Yeah, you know what I mean? If you have if The Rock comes out and he has their back, or Stone Cold, talking about like some of the all-time most respected guys, if they have their back, I think you see a lot of them speak out on what's going on. I'd like to see Stephanie McMahon come out, but that's not likely. I would not be surprised if Stephanie McMahon made Kurt Angle do some shit to her. So, jeez. The whole McMahon family, and I know it's just the storylines from SmackDown, they all just rub me the wrong way today.
Yeah, you know an awful lot about wrestling for someone who's not into wrestling.
From the SmackDown era, man, I don't care, the late 90s, early 2000s, that The Rock, Triple H, Stone Cold era is still some of the most entertaining shit. Like, I saw a clip on Facebook. There was like this scene where there was a match between two guys, and it just escalated because everybody had beef with somebody. So one guy wins the match. It was like The Rock and somebody else. So the guy slams The Rock, and then somebody else comes in the ring, and they do on that guy. Somebody else comes in, they do their finisher, and it goes through like 30 fucking superstars, and at the end The Rock gets up and does the rock bottom on the last guy standing. I'm watching the shit, I didn't even realize I was smiling.
I'll be honest with you, like I'm like you, like I have a preconceived notion about the type of people that watch wrestling. And I'm like, this is fucking like for poor people and rednecks, you know what I mean? And then I'll watch a little bit, like I'll just be flipping through the channels, something will come on, and I'll be like stuck. And then you watch it, and you at some point you find yourself like kind of smiling. It's fun to watch, and even if you hate the idea of the fans that like wrestling, you watch it and like, this is so absurd that it's hilarious. Let's quickly, real quick.
Banana's got to open the bar. Banana.
Enjoy your night.
Have a good night.
But yeah, wrestling is it's an odd thing where I tell myself, I'm not a wrestling fan, and then I stumble across it and I watch it and I'm like, it's fun. And then it's just like, it's like a novella. It's like any sort of like soap opera where they leave you dangling at the end. You're like, well, I gotta watch Monday Night Raw now.
And it's, the storyline that'll be like so basic, and they up the ante. I remember there was a point where the storyline was that Kane was Undertaker's little brother, and Undertaker burned down his house, killed his mom and his father in the fire, and burned his little brother's face, and that's why Kane wears a mask.
Jesus.
That was like the official story that they put out with Kane. Like, it was just that absurd.
So Punny, what's going on? Welcome. Don't mind them. They just went on a wrestling tangent that I don't understand. So, but welcome.
It's bullshit.
What?
Yeah. I know for a fact you've watched something with like who is the guy with the I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had something like if it was all there in my mind, all the words, I could have been like, yeah. But one thing that we didn't touch on. Well, thank you for that. It's appreciated. Just real quick, we were talking about these allegations before we got off on our rant. The one that we didn't touch on is Roy Moore. Are you guys following this one?
No, hit me.
Okay, so Roy Moore is running for Senate in Alabama. It has come out that when he was in his 30s, he would actively seek out teenage girls, like 14-year-olds, and 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds. He would even go to malls, and he got booted from the mall that he used to go to because he was creeping out the girls that were there. He is the Republican nominee for the Senate seat in Alabama, and as of right now, he just says fake news.
Was he yelling at a reporter fake news?
He went on probably. He was the guy who went on stage recently with like a gun and was like,
oh, it freaked everybody out. They're like, what?
Yeah. And there was a video that the BBC posted of people who support him that are like women that are like, oh, it's fake news. Like, why would it just come out now and all this? Meanwhile, the lady who's saying like this happened to her is like, check out my yearbook. That's Roy Moore's signature. Signed it and wrote down the restaurant where she said that they were at when he was like groping her in the car, and she was 14 years old and he was 30. You know what I mean?
Boy.
Just like, hey, check it out right here. And they're like, nah, fake news, whatever. I would still vote for a child molester over a Democrat, like that type of shit.
Yeah, okay, come on now. That's like, I understand party lines and whatnot, but listen, no. you should.
That's the train that they attach themselves to. And like Silk Penny says right here, we elected a sexual predator, which is absolutely true. Now imagine with this avalanche is going down now, if this would have happened to any other person that, I feel like when it happens to somebody who's by the opinions of whoever may be on the left or who is liberal or on that side of the spectrum, then it's like fucking bring out the guillotine or we're going to chop his head off. Yeah. It happens to somebody on the right. It happens to, Donald Trump. It's like, that's just boy talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's okay.
You know what I mean?
Bill Maher said something like that on his show. He said that's the difference between the left and the right. He said, we arrest our sexual predators, our sexual predators. Republicans elect them. Because he said, I know. He said, and he brought up the fact that Anthony Weiner is in fucking jail.
Yeah.
Like he's not out running, and he was like a pretty popular guy. He was popular, within Washington, and even popular with some people in the entertainment industry. And everybody was like, no, like fuck that guy. If you're revealed to be a scumbag, you're a scumbag. It doesn't matter what else you believe. Yeah.
The one of the other major differences is that, a lot of these are allegations, right? Now, I'm not saying that to mean that the women that are saying this aren't being truthful, but they're allegations.
Yeah.
With Trump, he was like, you can just grab him by the pussy. Like, he said it himself.
It's recorded. Yeah.
It's recorded. He said it himself. And they're like, again, locker room talk. Like, I've never, been in the locker room talking about, yeah, man, you know, when you're 6'4", you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can just grab by the pussy. I can't say that I have money. I'm not a celebrity, but I'm tall, and I think that's like the only thing I got going for me.
You got a nice beard too. I'll give you that.
It's like when you have a nice, I mean, you guys understand. When you have a nice beard, you can do whatever you want. You can grab by the pussy. You know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah, no one talks like that, and it was so weird that worked. It was so weird that actually worked. Because it went away. It was like, it's locker room talk. No, it's not locker room talk. I'm surprised. And you had professional athletes coming out saying that's absolutely not true. That's not what we talk about in the locker room. Mm-hmm. You know, it's such a juvenile excuse even to say that's just, you know, basically boys will be boys is what they said to excuse a 70-year-old man running for the highest office in the land. Like, boys will be boys. So bizarre.
I mean, to your point on that part, right? There, you know, the whole boys will be boys thing. One of the other major things that's going on right now, which there are two sides to this, in the sense that there's a reason people should be angry and then a reason why people should be like, you know, something else. But anyway, it's with the rapper Meek Mill, right? So he broke probation and is getting like, I don't know, like 6 more years in prison, something like that. Yeah, 2 to 4 years in prison. Meanwhile, there was that the one kid, the college swimmer who was caught.
Brock
Turner, who was caught raping a girl who was unconscious. He only gets 6 months. You know what I mean?
Because he can't. You know, because he won't make it through prison.
Yeah, he only served 3. Mind you, there are people who are in jail for 90 days just waiting on fucking because they can't pay bail.
Yeah.
He, like, he only served 3 months.
Even his father, basically, his father is just as much of a scumbag as Brock Turner is, because they all play that same thing, that boys will be boys sort of thing, which is so dismissive. And it just shows you didn't know how to raise your kid. My dad at no point in time was like, hey, just, you know, do whatever you want, ask for forgiveness later. You know what I mean? It was never like that. You don't do that sort of thing.
And real quick, Silk Penny is officially our newest and latest Inquisitor, so welcome.
We need you because apparently we lost people on our hiatus.
we were gone for 2 weeks, I think.
Not my fault.
3, I think.
Not my fault.
Mostly Shay's fault because he went out of the country.
Yeah, but I was like, hey man, I'm in Spain right now during
Cordero,
the whole Catalonia thing.
Don't you agree, Cordero?
Yeah, we wanted you to enjoy your vacation, man. We didn't
2-1. We win.
You know, the honest truth is, and we'll get back to the thing. I was looking forward to doing the show out of the country because I thought it brought a dynamic. Like, hey, these dudes are doing something. When it was only me doing something, you were still, you know, in the States like a bunch of fucking losers. But I was like, hey man, yeah, let's do this. Let's do it where I'll fucking get back on the train and go back out to the middle of London and be like, live from London. There's no such thing as a dumb question with your host, Danny from Ocala and Cordero from Tampa and Shade live in London. Fucking, hey bruv, you know.
I would do that just to see someone from there be like, hey, you make fun of me? Bam!
The whole thing was, and I'm going to go again. I already said this. I put it on my Facebook feed that I've already started searching through flights to leave again. But when I go, because I would have went somewhere, and if you guys would have been like, hey, tap this guy on the shoulder and ask him this, I swear I would have fucking done it.
Okay.
But we missed out. But it's okay. It's okay, though. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, Silk Penny says used to stream 50 to 100 people, took a 9-month break, came back, nobody. Everybody was gone. That sucks.
We'll take that if you got any people to spare.
I would do it anyway.
So much going on since just this past week. Danny, I don't know if you've been up on this this whole thing with EA Games.
Yeah.
Fucking hilarious. Like they basically have set it up to where in order to play as Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, you have to either play the game
for 40 hours. Yeah.
pay in order to unlock the characters immediately.
Yeah.
There was a huge backlash about it, especially on Reddit. The someone, a spokesperson for the company. Oh, thanks for the follow.
Mad Dog Garnum, I think is how you say that, is the latest Inquisitor. Welcome.
Someone from the company was speaking, and they were discussing with the fans, and they were saying that they wanted fans to get a sense of accomplishment from playing the game.
Oh, okay.
You know, so that's why they locked these people behind a paywall. Essentially,
that's what levels are. I think we have to explain it to Shane here.
No, I understand what's going on because this isn't something new. There were like
it happens all the time in mobile games.
What's that?
It happens all the times in mobile games, but it's acceptable.
It was happening. It was happening on on like Mortal Kombat PlayStation games where you needed to pay to unlock the Predator or Freddy Krueger and stuff like that. So it's nothing new. It's fucked up though. It's just another way for them. I mean, they're making billions and billions of dollars on these fucking things. Star Wars is in no need for this little bit of extra money that people paying $40 to play with Luke Skywalker.
But I do want to add though, there's a little bit of a difference because if they made it to where like it isn't like unlocking the Predator or Freddy Krueger in a Mortal Kombat game. Right. It's like unlocking Freddy Krueger in a Nightmare on Elm Street game. Again, it's Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. It's like you sit down to play Mario and Luigi, and you're gonna start off as Toadstool for the first 3 weeks. It's just like
you do 40 hours first.
Not fun. Yeah, and you see Mario all in the commercials. You see him on the cover of the game and everything. Like they're advertising it. Come play the new Mario game. And it's like less than fucking Yoshi. Like, to me, like you have to start out as like the plant that comes out the pipe. Like the first 40 hours is you playing the plant, and you got to catch other people who paid to fucking pay to play.
You just sit there, you just try to get him with the. Oh fuck!
For 40 hours, the rich people who actually fucking paid to unlock every game ever,
Yeah. But you're right. That's that's the worst thing. Like this is what's considered AAA title, so it's $60. You paid $60. I expect to get every aspect that comes with that $60. Not to hey, thanks for $60. Your favorite characters, you can play them. You just gotta either grind 40 hours with the shitty ones, or plow down another, $120 to get some loot boxes for the chance of unlocking it. Doesn't guarantee it, so you can't even say, "Hey, I want to pay for Darth Vader." Period. However much money. Here's $300. No, you pay $300 for the chance for opening boxes that may or may not contain Darth Vader in it. That is the biggest slap in the face.
And think about 40 hours. Like, think about how long that is. I mean, if you sit down for a gaming session,
average person plays 6.5 hours per week is the average.
Per week.
Yeah.
So that we're talking about 8 weeks. 8 weeks you have to be playing this game, mind you, consistently.
Yeah.
Not playing any other game, basically. You have to just play this game just to unlock one of the players you probably bought the damn game. So that means that if you sat down, if you got this game like now, you would only be halfway there by the time the new Star Wars comes out.
Soon!
40 hours is enough time to watch like every Star Wars movie and then like another 10 hours of cast interviews.
Yeah. You get all the extra features from absolutely every single movie, and then you get to play Darth Vader.
I could rewatch Breaking Bad with 40 hours of my time. 40 hours of your time, you're going to be a fucking welder.
You can get a degree from Everest.
Yeah, 40 hours is enough time. Like, you gotta think about how many people are gonna buy this game. A good amount of them are developers. If all those people put in 40 hours, we can make this fucking game. with 40 man hours each. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, that is a ridiculous. That's a week of work. That's a full-time job I gotta do to unlock this shit.
And how long do you get to play Darth Vader for where you do unlock him? I don't know how. Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
How long?
You get to spawn in a game as soon as you die, start over.
It's ridiculous. You'd have to spend just the rest of the year just playing this game at least an hour and change a day to unlock these characters.
This segment right here should be like, what else can you do with 40 hours before you get Darth Vader?
With enough people, 40 hours, you could build a house.
Yeah.
Just get the people that you know that are interested in buying this game. You each put in 40 hours. That's like essentially Habitat for Humanity. You could build a house with this game. 40 hours, we could get the fucking power back on in Puerto Rico.
Oh, fuck.
Trump's wall. Like, this is ridiculous.
If enough people 40 hours, we could figure out a healthcare bill that works.
Yeah, well, 40 hours, we can get to Mars. I'm curious at the amount of man hours it took to get to the moon. What this game sells times 40 hours, we probably could do it again.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah, like as Silk Penny points out, Overwatch loot boxes, and that is the right way of doing it. Is these are boxes that you earn by playing the game, and they just give you cosmetic things that does not give you an advantage over the rich kid who convinces parents to buy him everything. Yeah.
While you're playing, you're going to be getting gunned down by all these people who have had this shit for weeks.
Yeah, it's classism. It is classism. It's exactly what's happening. This game sucks.
It's a built-in privilege. I don't want to fucking buy society.
Oh man. Go ahead and go to a 2-screen real quick, please.
You start the game as like Snake from Metal Gear Solid, and then unlock the Star Wars characters. Make it something like that. Make me start. I'm Jill Valentine from Resident Evil for 40 hours, and then I get to unlock the Star Wars characters.
It's a shame though. Yeah, it really is a shame because it's a really good looking game visually. But I won't do that. I think everybody should put their foot down, put their money where their mouth is, and don't play it.
Yeah,
we just gave you a list of other shit to do with that 40 hours.
You can learn to speak French, all right.
Just fine.
Yeah, I think 40 hours works out to be like 3 college credits. So you could take a history class at your local community college. And
you could take a programming class and learn how to program this game.
The funny part of it is that you can take, with the 40 hours, you can take that history class, or with the cost to unlock Darth Vader, you can actually pay the fucking tuition. The same class.
Mad Dog Garnum says try Dutch. So yeah, whatever. Got 40 hours. I'm doing it.
40 hours.
If I can't figure out Dutch just fine in 40 hours, I will buy the loot boxes for this stupid Darth Vader.
Build an engine like 5 times.
God, man.
You can do so much with 40 hours. It's insane that they would even. That's what you have to do to unlock Darth Vader. It's crazy.
And like I think what made it worse is some developer came out and said, these armchair developers the internet has or whatever, like a slap in the face saying, oh, we don't understand how hard it is to develop this game. It's a multi-million-dollar project, when a game gets developed. I think you could have chosen to not do it that way. It wasn't a programming issue. As a developer said, oh man, I really don't know how to get people Darth Vader. We're just gonna have to make them pay for it.
And they only have to get a few people to be willing to pay for it, because most people aren't going to pay for that.
$60 times 10 million boxes. $600 million. What we could buy.
Yeah. What we could buy.
How much does Puerto Rico cost?
Yeah. I think they're only like the debt was only like 70 million or something like that. Oh no, it was 30 million. We could pay their debt.
Fucking.
We could with that much money. Pick your favorite company that went out of business from the 90s. We could bring it back.
Yeah,
we could
Circuit City.
Back. Circuit City.
Movie gallery. We got you, man.
All that fucking Bert Dines is making a comeback.
You miss service merchandise? No problem. Eckerd's?
$600 million. It's insane.
Oh, man.
They're making you fucking pay to unlock Darth Vader. A chance to get Darth Vader.
Did you pick up the game? Because this will be even funnier if you say yeah. Damn.
I absolutely did not. I couldn't. I can't do it. I can't. It looks good though, but yeah, can't do it. Are you?
Not until, I mean, if I do, I'd be waiting for them to like resolve this one way or another, which I don't know you can. That's like core development that they did. They'd have to like rewrite a large portion of the game, which I mean, people do it sometimes. So give me 1% of that money, I could get a life.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mad Dog. I feel like Mad Dog has had Darth Vader then. He's got the hours to do it. Lucky.
Could cure world hunger.
That's nuts, man. And you know that they posted a comment on Reddit, and it actually became the most downvoted comment in all of Reddit history. It was like negative 681K.
Yeah, I think it's 30,000. No, I'm not 30,000. It's like 30 times the most upvoted comment on Reddit. So it's downvoted so much that it's 30 times what the most upvoted comment was.
What?
It's ridiculous, and it was still going steadily.
Well, at this point, yeah,
30 days. It might level out at 1 million just for the novelty of it. Like, people will downvote it.
Like, go find the post just so you can make sure you're part of history and downvote.
I saw one of the replies that was just hilarious when the developer was saying that we want you to get a sense of accomplishment from unlocking the character, and he was like, that's bullshit. When I go to Burger King, they don't make me work 10 hours to unlock my fucking fries.
Just pay for the fries.
Yeah. Just buy my damn fries. I don't know how they thought this was a good idea, but I mean, I don't know, we'll see. It'll depend on what the public's response is with their wallet, because obviously no one likes it, but if people still go out and buy the game and pay to unlock the character,
they justified it.
You know? Yeah, and they only need like 1% of the people who buy the game to unlock the character to make it worth it, because they priced it out at that point. Like, how many people would pay no matter what to unlock the character? Yeah, you know.
I thought somebody did the math of how much it would cost to unlock everything. Yeah, here it is. Someone calculated the amount it would take to unlock everything in the game, and it comes to 4,528 hours, or $2,100.
Fuck, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Hi.
Whoa. I guess he's back.
That level of greed, like, really shouldn't be allowed, you know, but I guess if people are willing to support it.
Yeah.
I just read that was the most downvoted thing on Reddit history.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. And what did you say, Cordero? It is 3 times more than...
Like 30... Yeah, it's like 30 times more than the most upvoted thing on Reddit history.
Say it again?
Like, it's 30 times more than the most upvoted thing on Reddit history. So as far as the thing that's got the most voted thing on Reddit history before that, it's 30 times worse.
Worse, yeah. What was that?
What was
The most upvoted thing?
Yeah.
I can't remember. I saw it on there. They had like the five most upvoted things and the 5 most downvoted things. The thing that was the most downvoted before this was a guy asking to be downvoted. He had like 30,000 downvotes.
He just wanted the most downvotes. That's awesome. Here's the comment that actually got the downvotes, which I think is justified because it is a slap in the face. It says, the intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. As for costs, we selected initial values based upon data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Among other things, we're looking at average per player credit earn rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course, attainable via gameplay. We appreciate candid feedback and the patch community has put forth around the current topics here on Reddit, our forums, and across numerous social media outlets. Our team will continue to make changes, monitor community feedback, and update everyone as often as we can. And from that point, they removed the refund button from Origin, from the PC version, where you can go in and say, "Nah, I want my money back."
Wow.
Which apparently, if you want that, you will need to call and for a refund. What is this?
So this is something that popped up on the screen on my Facebook feed a little bit earlier. There's a guy in Texas who put a sticker on the back of his truck that said, "Fuck Trump and fuck you for voting for him." So the sheriff of this town, apparently he says he's been getting lots of calls, and now there's a big freedom of speech debate that's going on right now because this sheriff seems to be out to get this guy. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys heard about it or not, but I thought it was something interesting to bring up. Another freedom of speech debate. And the way I see it, someone made a great point. If you voted for a guy that says things like grab him by the pussy or calls football players sons of bitches, then you have no right to complain about somebody that uses profanity.
Exactly.
It's actually a woman, 46-year-old Karen Fonseca.
Nice.
I think I'm going to create shirts to say the same thing.
Oh, great.
Neither of you are really interested in watching American Horror Story, right?
No, I would, but I'm backlogged on tons of shows that I didn't get to watch while I was gone. So,
well, the latest season was it started out about the election. It was the theme was cult. So it basically talked about different cults over history, and how they started and how they ended. And you had basically 2 main characters who kind of ended up going back and forth. And one was kind of one was a hardcore Trump supporter, alt-right guy, and the other one was like a very liberal woman who actually voted for Jill Stein because she was like to the left, like she was just upset at Hillary Clinton or whatever. So she protest voted for Jill Stein, which kind of became like a thing. But they touched on something in the season I thought was really interesting, and it was the backlash of women who are just like fed up with just all of it, fed up with Trump being able to get elected after saying grab him by the pussy, fed up with all the sexism and all of this shit, and them just basically uprising and kind of uniting. That I thought was pretty interesting. So when you said that this was a woman who did that, I thought that was it was interesting to basically go out to antagonize folks because obviously she's in Texas. Mm-hmm. And so
sorry, I was doing like that because it make it seem like we were next to each other. So what Mad Dog Garnham says, is there a segment on the American Horror Story called News with Trumpelstiltskin?
I think the joke Trumpelstiltskin came up.
Okay.
But I think he's saying just watch the news. That's America's Horror Story. It's just the news with Trump or whatever.
So going back to what you were saying though about you know, the character who was protest voting and got Jill Stein, just from a personal point of view, and I talked about this before, talking about Florida specifically with Pinellas County, where the amount of votes that split Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were doubled by the amount of people that voted for Jill Stein. Yeah. And, you know, there is a part of me, and I don't know if you'll agree, that especially with how bad he's actually ended up being, it wasn't, he never, that switch has never been flipped where he became presidential and it was just whatever. He's really a fucking dirtbag. He is just a big pile of shit. And I do blame some of these people for protest voting. Oh yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you were duped by fake news. There are legitimate reasons not to have wanted Hillary Clinton for president. Yeah. It wasn't a case of which I hate the term lesser of two evils. That was not the case. There was a bucket full of glass and horse shit, and then there was like a politician that you kind of don't like. You know what I mean? And they were like, well, I don't like this politician. I don't really like this bucket full of glass and horse shit, but I'm going to go with Jill Stein, who, you know, believes that GMOs are giving people AIDS. You know what I mean?
One thing that annoys me, and I wish the people who voted for Jill Stein would be honest about, is that you wanted Trump. Like, realistically, and not to say that you necessarily support Trump and everything he believes, but you wanted Trump to win, because otherwise, what's the point of that? Like, you knew Jill Stein wasn't going to win. You just knew it. She just didn't have everything that needed to go into her winning. And if Hillary won, then your protest vote didn't make a difference, so it didn't matter. So it's like your opinion isn't even heard. But if Trump wins, then attention is brought to the fact that you didn't vote for Hillary Clinton and you instead voted for Jill Stein. So now your voice is heard. Now you have a chance of even people wondering, hey, why didn't you vote for this candidate? What can we do to make sure you vote for them next time? So I wish they would just be honest about the fact that this is the best outcome for you, for what you want, you know?
Yeah. I agree with that. There are things that I can understand on why someone would want to vote for somebody who's so out of the mainstream, because I think within most people, or a lot of people, there is this sort of like urge to just hit a reset button, blow up everything and start over, right? We do it with you know, millions of things that we do. It's probably kind of ingrained into our DNA, you know, with, you know, through frustration or whatever, where you're just like, you go through those stages of acceptance, and then there's one where it's just like, fuck it, let's start over. You know what I mean? Danny could probably, you know, say when you were producing music, you know what I mean, where you just can't figure it out, and you're just like, fuck it, I'm starting over. You know,
nuke the songs.
You nuke it. So I think there's probably some people who legitimately, that's how they saw that. And even with their protest vote for somebody like Jill Stein, when you vote for someone like Jill Stein or whoever the fuck that's not going to get elected, and that's not to say that I'm okay with the two-party system. I'm not at all. But you just know at this point in time in our history, that shit's not going to happen. And when you vote for them, you are voting, as you said, to just blow up everything, and you're voting for Trump with your protest vote. And so, I even consider. Oh, go ahead. I was just saying. Just reiterate that I understand the urge to hit the reset button and blow everything up, but this isn't, you know, where you are fucking, you know, creating a song or building a house of cards, as we keep on talking about today. It's not where you knock it down and you're like, let's do it again. It's not, you know, it's nothing like that. It's not a game of a fucking Monopoly where you're losing, so you just fucking flip the board game over. And,
I mean, you can, but it doesn't fix anything. I just want to add, because I missed the conversation, but I would say that, like, if you really have your heart in the third party and you want a change, I think you need to work down up, not up down. So what I mean by that is, don't try to get a third party president right off the bat. That's very difficult. Like, let's start, working our way local, with your local state, then get into, the House and the Senate, and just work your way up, so that way you have a foundation. Because what you're hoping for, I think, when you do third party at the very top, is that there's enough people that are on the fence on both sides of the party that will flip to that third party once you get momentum and get them up there. And I think time and time again has shown that that's very difficult, and I think they would have a better opportunity doing so if they did it from the bottom up.
Yeah, no,
I could be wrong, but
it's more exciting to build things up rather than fix existing things. When you're building things up, you get to be more creative about how you do things. You get to be more optimistic about what's going to happen. You can talk about the way the thing is going to end up. There's more possibilities because you don't have that existing foundation that you have to stick to. But when you are trying to fix things, now you have to worry about preserving things that you want to keep and how to tear down the things you don't want without damaging the things that you do want. It's more of a headache. It's not as fun. It's not as exciting. You're not going to sell people on coming to fix things, but you can sell them on coming to, hey, let's get together and let's make something,
Yeah.
Right.
And to your point, I forgot what I was going to say.
To your point, I have forgotten what I was going to say.
No, there was something I had in there. And what were we talking about? I have completely blinked on what we were talking about. How about that?
Third parties. To your point earlier about that, I even hold folks who were going for Gary Johnson just to get the Libertarian Party to get enough of a percentage of the vote to actually get into the debates. I can even respect that strategy of, like, we know we're not going to win, but we need to get to 5% to be be legitimate. Yeah. I hold that in a different. I still think it was not the time for that, but I hold that in a different regard than just saying fuck this person, I'm going to vote.
Yeah. I think that was what I was thinking in my head was how you were saying that they just come out of the woodwork during presidential election seasons. I don't know, there may be a case, I don't know off the top of my head, where a Green Party candidate ran for mayor or city council or anything on a low level. It's just like Jill Stein just like decided, hey, I'm going to pop up and run for president. What have you done? I mean, granted, look who the fuck we got because of it. Some guy who doesn't deserve any of it. But it's like, if you're going for a job, you have to put in the work beforehand, usually, except for president, apparently. So that was always my beef with these third party candidates. Gary Johnson being an exception, as he was governor of New Mexico, right?
I'm not sure if that was his position, but I know he held a government position before. I thought it was something lower level than that, but it could be correct.
Jill Stein was governor of Massachusetts in 2002 and 2010.
She was governor of Massachusetts?
Yep, Green Party.
Wow. I'm baffled. I take back what I was saying. And
let me make sure she was Green Party.
I don't take back all of it because that's not. I mean, that's an exception to the rule. If there's many other Green Party candidates out there, if they want to get respect, you still have to kind of work up to that. And let's see, I'm going to find out with Gary Johnson here. Yeah, he was the 29th governor of New Mexico, so that's true.
As Silk Penny, you're absolutely right. With where she says, with Trump, we've seen someone we've seen what happens when a person with zero political qualifications takes office, no diplomacy, no ignorant of policy, and so on. And they use that as their defense, saying, we need something different, blah blah blah, and he's going to turn things upside down, or change the status quo or whatever. But like they've totally changed who they are as a party. Like, what was it? Not 8 years ago, but 10 years ago, if you did not have military history, you couldn't even be considered. Like, you're like a Republican Party is like, you've never served in the military. How are you going to serve as president? That was like how you shut the doors. And not once did that, I think, come up when Trump was running for president, except for the fact when he said, I like people that don't get captured, you know, insensitive, dumb shit like that. But before, they were like, it was impossible to get it without any kind of military history. Or a lawyer.
Did you say that Jill Stein was elected governor?
No, she was unsuccessful, but she ran for governor. In 2002.
I still think that's aiming a little bit too high. Going back to that real quick.
No, I agree. Yeah. No, you don't say, you don't go back to the McDonald's analogy and go into McDonald's and say, "Hey, I want to go ahead and be the manager of the store."
Yeah, gotcha. And we got some great comments coming in here.
I don't think there was even any Republicans who had been divorced. Like, they were even stricter than on that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, and like that weren't strong Catholics or Christians, and like as clear as day or whatever. The
thing that they stood for is crumbled with their support of Donald Trump. It's completely fucking been obliterated.
I just got Mad Dog's comments. Says Trump has military experience. He dodged a draft 4 times.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
That's all I was gonna say before we start talking there. But I guess we hit. Well, I guess since we're on the Trump Talk Hour, which is for our new viewers, the Trump Talk Hour is something that we do every episode, but it's also something that we never want to do.
Yeah.
But we always end up doing it because he always does something that is absolutely stupid.
And we're all frustrated, and we need some way to express that, so we do that to each other and let you guys join in on it.
Yeah. The new dumb thing that he's done that makes absolutely no sense, and there was no reason to do it, is he repealed the ban on trophy hunting. Not trophy hunting in general, but being able to bring those trophies back. So, for instance, someone might go out to Africa, kill an elephant, and bring back the elephant's head, right? Yes. So, under President Obama, that was banned. So that doesn't stop people from going over to Africa to trophy hunt, but what it does is kind of deters them because they can't bring it back. All they can do is take a picture, right? Yeah. Trump said, fuck that, for fuck knows why. There's no reason to do that. Only to, as Cordero's pointed out many times before, to piss off the people that hate him, which emboldens his base. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, what a fucking cocksucker, honestly.
Not to be devil's advocate or anything like that, but I saw some more details about this, and I was like, okay. I agree with Silk Penny that he's just trying to undo anything that Obama did. He doesn't care what it is, as long as he gets to undo it. The ban that Obama had put in place was actually only for 2 countries in South Africa, Zimbabwe and I think it's pronounced Zambie, Zambie or something like that. So only
Zambia?
Zambia. Sorry, my bad. Only those 2 countries were you not allowed to bring back trophy kills or whatever. You can actually go anywhere else in in Africa and kill whatever you want and bring it back. It's only in those 2 countries, and the reason was it wasn't clear that in those 2 countries that the meat was properly being used, that there was any kind of benefit, because there are some benefits to hunting animals like those, especially when you have like weaker, older like elephants in a herd that are actually holding the herd back and whatnot. Like I said, it doesn't justify not necessarily being devil's advocate. I just want to be clear on the policy.
My beef, I have a big beef on that because that is the excuse people use. But the thing is, when they go out hunting for elephants, they're not looking for the weak one. Plus, that's not how evolution works. We don't say, oh, this pack isn't doing good, so we as humans need to kill this elephant.
Interject. Yeah, like I said, I was explaining the policy specifically.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just wanted to get that out because I just it sounds like a big load of bullshit to me. But I'm not saying that that's what you believe. I'm just go on.
Issue is that with everything that Trump has talked about, how is this even on the to-do list?
Yeah.
Just like,
because he knew it was like the only thing he probably could have done.
You ran on like repealing healthcare, cutting taxes, and all this shit. Like, where's all that? And I've said this plenty of times before. All these people who talked about, they like Trump because they were sick of, so-called identity politics and dealing with social issues. He's like just done nothing but ramp up social issues his whole time.
And identity politics in his own way when he, when he talks about, for instance, the removal of Confederate monuments, and when he says something like, "We will not allow them to remove our history."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's identity politics. So
that's very divisive.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, that's pretty much gone now, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah, where are those?
That's a lost battle for them.
I don't know if you guys have noticed.
Our news cycle works. There's shit going on. I'm sorry, Cordero. Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but with every one of these issues that comes up, once it looks like Trump is going to lose, he drops it completely. Before you can call the game, once it looks like he's going to lose, all these places are taking monuments. Boom, never bring.
You're right.
If someone wants to call it an L, I don't know what you're talking about.
Sometimes
that wasn't an issue.
I'll give it. Yeah, I'll give it. Sometimes he'll like. I forgot what bill it was. He had what's his lackey boy pull the bill or whatever because he knew he wasn't gonna have enough votes. He's like, no, we need to pull it back so we can rewrite. So everybody gets happy. But I think it was just like he knew it wasn't gonna pass. He's like, I don't want to lose on this, so pull it out.
2 people out of 100, possibly 101 if it was a tiebreaker, but 2 people said we're not going to vote for this, and you said, all right, we'll call. That's a lot. That's it. Pack it up. didn't even like throw it out on the chance that a Democrat maybe was like, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Nope. He just called it. It wasn't a sure thing, so fuck it. We're not even gonna have people vote on it. Just have them vote. That's what they're there for.
Then if you're wasting your time. Yeah.
Yeah. And if people have it, what are those issues? That's when you bring that kind of shit up. But nope, it's not an easy slam dunk, so it's not even worth it.
Mad Dog Garnham says, with all the stuff in the news, you have a different issue. You Americans are looking at the little piglets while you ignore the big orange boar shitting all over your shoes. I think the big orange boar is feeding those little piglets. Yeah. Yes, it's Harvey Weinstein. I think there's a lot of people that I think when it's all said and done, and can we get like a little bit of a celebration that there's only 3 more years left? I mean, there's 1 year down. I'm sorry. 20th. I will fully admit that I was really confident during this last presidential campaign, but I think there's no chance in hell he gets reelected. I'm sorry, man. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm not saying that shit yet.
I know you're the ultimate pessimist.
I am pessimist prime. I'm not calling it yet.
We got a prediction from Silk Penny that says he'll resign. There are quite a few people that say that. I think I don't know. I don't think there's anything. I mean, who knows at this point, right? So we never thought that we and I still baffle myself. I still tell myself sometimes, like, I can't believe I'm living in a fucking universe where Donald Trump is president. So I never thought that would happen. So it's completely possible that, he will resign or he will be impeached. Who knows? At this point, literally anything can happen.
Shame for it. Ultimately, Nixon's shame was his undoing. He felt like he had to leave. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't in it. What he didn't stay to fight it out because he could have fought it out. Could have just said fuck it and seen how the shit went down or whatever. Which I think Trump would do. Trump would. I think Trump is going to stay until they slap fucking cuffs on him.
Yeah, he will fight.
It's gonna have to be like the ending of fucking Goodfellas. Like his whole crew is whacked. And like somebody flips on him. Like Trump he's no less than that.
No, I agree with you on that part. I think just in the way that he handles like legal battles, he drags it out, because even if it's a cause that he would lose on any other count, if he can drag it out long enough, his theory is that people will get burnt out, you know, and they'll just call it a day. So yeah, that's that.
And he knows at this point the Republicans can't take this L. They can't. Yeah. They cannot lose this. You know, if anything, they may wait until 2018, because I thought that if they were going to push him out, they were going to do it by the end of this year.
Yeah.
So they have a full year to campaign to 2018 so they can retain as many seats as possible. Now that they haven't pushed them out yet, they're holding off until at least those elections.
Yeah.
Because if they push him out 6 months before, and Democrats are actually trying to get the impeachment vote on the floor so they can have these people as saying you didn't need Trump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they can use that against them.
That's a good idea.
So if they're not going to push
smart.
him out now, if they're not going to try to push him out now, they're not going to push him out at all, because they're not going to wait until, even if Mueller's investigation wraps up early, you know, next year or in the summer or whatever. I think they're going to hold off until 2019, because 6 months of Democrats just saying you guys supported Trump, you know, right after he got kicked out, be a fucking landslide.
Well,
I think that's a tactic that they're going to use, and it's going to work. Going back to local politics, just to kind of talk about this in St. Pete, Cordero, there was the recent mayoral election between Rick Kreisman and Rick Baker. Rick Baker was the Republican who had been mayor of St. Pete before, and for all intents and purposes, there were a lot of things that Kreisman did as mayor that, you know, some people believed that he didn't do a very good job. I don't personally believe that. I mean, for all I know, he did a good job. But in his campaign, Kreisman basically ran on the, you know, Rick Baker won't distance himself from Trump. Right. So now Rick Baker isn't like this complete lunatic like Trump is, but he wouldn't distance himself from him. And Rick Kreisman ran on that and ended up winning when he was predicted to lose. Now, there's other things that fall into that. St. Pete has really changed over the past few years. It's not like it's turned into a very liberal city. Right. I mean, I think they called it tropical Portland. So that plays into it too. But the fact that Kreisman basically ran on, for the most part, a campaign of, you know, Baker won't distance himself from Trump, and he won on that. It says something about that. And not only that, this was a big enough election down in St. Pete that, you know, Biden and you know, Charlie Crist, and I think even Obama at one time had put their weight behind Kreisman. So this wasn't just some election that doesn't really mean anything. These big players came out to help move it along, because there's an image thing that goes along with it. If Rick Baker can come in to a swing city in a swing region in a swing state and win, then it still gives that view that that things are trending for him. So the fact that he did not win, and I think the other thing is that during the mayoral campaign, you know, where there was many people, Kreisman won that, but he won it by a very slim margin, because you had to get over 50% of the vote. So and that basically just got the two mayoral candidates to that second election, right? So Kreisman beat out Baker by, it was really small. It was like a few hundred votes. And then when it came down to the actual election, Kreisman ended up winning by about 3,000 votes, which doesn't sound like much, but when you consider that St. Pete, the amount of people voting within St. Pete was, you know, probably around 30,000 people. So that's actually a pretty big margin. But I mean, I don't know if that is a litmus test for what's going to happen in the future, but you know, it's something to see there. And the fact that what's going on in Alabama now with Roy Moore and all the stuff that he's doing, the fact that, you know, he can't really distance himself from Trump. He's like aligned with him and all that, and actually giving a Democrat a chance to win a Senate seat in Alabama. That's pretty big too. Granted, it took the fact that it's coming out that he was a child molester, but you know, the fact that there's a chance is something. No, he's not even backing out.
Yeah.
The word is that even if he gets in, they will vote to remove him, which is very, very plausible at this point. But we'll see.
But if they vote to remove him, doesn't he get to pick an incumbent until the next special election?
I don't know how that works because it could be different on a local level. So
like my brother.
I can't answer that.
Silk Penny had some pretty good comments. I swear, if Ray Moore wins, boom. We
have a comment there. Do you realize that if Trumpling gets impeached, you will have to pay for that bugger the rest of his life? What is he going to sue? I bet he would sue. That would surprise, man. He would sue the government of the United States.
It depends on what he means as far like I don't think he continues to get his presidential salary, but if he does like have enough charges where he can spend some time in prison, I don't think he would get a life sentence in prison, but we sure as hell would be paying for the nicest fucking prison there is for him. Yeah. But yeah, retirement, Social Security coverage. I don't know if that follows through if you were impeached. Like, to sue, he'll get $200K a year after being a president. I don't know if that still applies if you're impeached, though.
Yeah.
And actually removed from office.
To anybody who prefaces a question with dumb question, you're going to get. I wish we had the ability to send shirts. We would. But the question was from Silk Penny: why does the giraffe have aluminum foil on its head? This is April the giraffe. I don't know if you remember from a few months ago. April was like the big deal on Facebook. Everyone was watching April the giraffe to see if she was going to give birth live on TV, if she became an internet sensation. The reason April has tinfoil on her head is because we love debunking conspiracies. So the tinfoil is because April is a conspiracy theorist. She loves David Wolf and Alex Jones.
Flat Earth believer.
She's a flat earther. She's a big B.O.B. fan. So that's why April has the aluminum foil on her head. So, and she always sits around here, man. She's been around for a while, and she will continue to be.
I think I owe April an apology.
For what?
Because I believe I had my own conspiracy that April wasn't pregnant.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh wait! April may be pregnant again. By the way, hey, I don't know what the gestation period is for giraffes, but hey,
Cordero's still gonna go with. Yeah. He might have been wrong the first time, but
not getting me again.
Very good, very good. That's the story behind April.
Have you guys seen the trailer? I'm sure you've seen the trailer, but Justice League is coming out tomorrow. You guys hyped for that at all, or?
We are. Do we want to get into one thing before we get into comic book talk? Which is because I have some show and tell stuff here.
Show and tell.
Yeah. Hey, well, one of the things I did, and we talked about this earlier, but one of the things I did on my little trip was I made sure that I went to Barcelona because everything going on with the Catalonians wanting to separate from the rest of Spain.
Mad Dog's making me laugh. Mad Dog said, "Good thing it's 9 months for humans. Americans could handle more Trump and breeds."
So for anybody that's watching, I'm sure you're familiar with what's going on in Spain right now. There's a region in the northeast region of Spain. This is the Catalonian region. They already have autonomy, but last month they decided to vote without any legal rights to separate from the rest of Spain. They all voted yes in the Catalan region. It set off this entire deal over there because Spain was like, hey, you can't fucking do that. And now we're going to arrest your leaders and fucking, fucking take over your local government. So I visited Barcelona with the intention on being able to interview some people there on the ground to see, how they felt. Once I got there, leading up to getting there, there were protests like every day. And I thought, I was like, I was going to be able to make it and, get to one of these protests, get some great video footage and whatever the case may be. And the first night I was there, I was watching the news and there was a protest at one of the train stations that I could have hopped on and went. Instead, I was like, you know what, man? There'll be another one tomorrow. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep this one out and tomorrow we'll hit it up. Turns out there were no more protests for the rest of the time I was there. That said, I did grab a lot of great photos. I don't know if you brought them up or if you need me to send them to you or whatever.
I got it. I'm working on it.
But the other thing that I did, which I think is probably going to be my most cherished, thing that I bring back from this, was they had posters and everything like just all throughout the city. So I was able to rip some of these off the wall, move these out, and this is one of the posters that they had leading up to the vote. So this is telling them to vote yes for their own public. So I thought this is cool. I'll probably end up getting this framed and putting it somewhere. It doesn't seem like much now, but it just seems like
it's part of history.
Exactly, it's part of history. And then this was another one that we got on the last day that I thought was really cool too. And if you give me a moment, it's upside down, yeah. So I'll move this here. Let's see what it says. So 1-0. I don't know what stuff I mean. See, it's Catalonian is a little bit different than Spanish.
Yeah.
But that obviously says it's anti-democratic. Let's see. Searching for a declaration of unilateral independence. Since the criteria for democratic participation, proposing a something on the 48th. I'm guessing that's like a vote. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. See, yeah, something about the vote here. The thing is, since I'm not exactly sure what that says. I can only kind of put it together. It's hard for me to tell what this is because what you have here. I'm sorry, I need to lower that a bit.
No,
what you see here is the new Catalonian flag there, which is a little bit different. What they did here, and I actually bought one. I'll if you give me a moment, I'll go run and get that as well. But what they did is they put the Catalonian flag in there with a mousetrap. So it's hard for me to decipher of whether or not this is pro-secession or anti-secession. Like they're saying that the pro-secession, the way I
and it's like in a glass box, so it's like
yeah,
trying to show sensitivity or something.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're saying that if
and that's the new flag inside.
Yeah, that's the new. Well, it's not the new flag. What it is like a flag that they designed for it. It is based off the Cuban flag because of the Cuban Revolution.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not exactly sure what this is supposed to say, but I thought it was another cool poster from what's going on down there.
Isn't Cuba's flag with the red and
it
then
is
the blue?
So it's with the red. So it's
Puerto Rico's, right?
Well, it's based off. Those flags are both based off of the same thing.
Cuba.
Yeah. So those colors, the red and the yellow, those are Catalonian colors because their original flag is just their original flag is just the yellow and the red, just the stripes up and down. Then they added in the star and everything. I don't know. Do you have any of the photos you're able to pull up? I'm gonna go grab the flag real quick while you're bringing that up.
So I was trying to decipher that. I mean, wait, this might be London. No, there's a flag up there actually. You see it up there?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. All right, let's see what else we got here. Libertad, that means liberty. Help Catalonians save Europe. Very cool. I'm sure he'll come back and explain this to us laymen's. Favor. I mean, clearly that's to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Liberty, prison, politics, or liberty in prisons politics, or it could be liberty in prisons politics. Yeah.
All right, so I'm back. What pictures did we bring up here?
Right now we're on the liberty in prisons politics, or liberty. Is it prison for politics? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, like I said, it's a little bit different. That's another one for the voting.
Yeah.
And I tried my best to get some of those off, and it looks like some other people did too, because it
the edges.
You can see. Yeah, but the thing is, they're like, it's a full 11 by 17 sticker that they're putting on there. So if some of it is just kind of, I have the Mike Manatee thing, just real quick, because I just saw that the Mike Manatee, basically we're Floridians, and the manatee is sort of a representation of Florida. I got this because it's actually a tea holder, like you put your tea in there. So
or your marijuana.
Yeah, so
it hangs on the edge of the cup and steeps.
Exactly.
Are there holes in it?
Yeah. That's
awesome.
So that's why I have that. So that's a quick explanation for the manatee there. So yeah, so here are some of the. It doesn't have a name. You know what, Silk Penny, you can name it, and whatever you name the manatee, it will be his name from here on out, or her name, its name. So looking at some of the pictures here, all throughout Barcelona, you see the Catalonian flags flying. The only spots you really got to see the Spanish flags flying were around government buildings. So there were tons of the Catalonian flags. Some areas had Barcelonan flags hanging up, which were blue. I didn't know where to find that one. But it was kind of cool to see it up there, because it was just
hey, look at that,
beautiful.
Yeah. So this one here, there's several different ones. Now this is sort of like it. This is one of the other Catalonian flags, because they're different versions. So just the yellow stripes, like you see here, that's what the original Catalonian flag looks like. And then on this version, you see that they added the star. You see the yellow triangle. So this was sort of like the first iteration of the flag that they're now flying now, right? Because it has the triangle and everything, like the Cuban flag.
Looks like Wonder Woman's old costume.
A little bit, right? This is the actual Spaniard flag. I'll show you that one in a minute, but I want to show the new Catalonian flag. This is the one that was hanging up all throughout the city.
Very cool.
Yeah. So this is the one we got here. This is all throughout the city on everybody's, their balconies and all that. And like I said, they did this one, based off of the Cuban flag, just to show revolution. And they want to separate. They feel like they're different there. To be honest, for your average ignorant American, you're not going to be able to tell a very big difference between a Catalonian and a Spaniard. Aesthetically, they look exactly the same. Linguistically, there's a little bit of a difference. Catalonian has a little bit more of a French influence. But that being said, most of the words are the same. So let me give you a great example of the similarities. But how it shows you how they're similar, but at the same time how they feel like they are, ethnically different, right?
Yeah.
So when we're on the train, and I have audio of this, and I'll have to play for you guys separately. I can bring on the show later, but it just doesn't make sense to put it on there now. But I was on the subway, and on the subway, when you're about to get off your stop, and the bell comes on, and there's a voice that tells you what stop you're about to get off of. So they have three voices that play. They have someone speaking in, your typical Spanish from the country, and then they have a Catalonian translation, and then they have an English translation. So when it goes off, and this is hilarious, right? So the bell comes on. We're about to get this talk. Goes bing, and then it says in Spanish, "Próxima estación, Col Blanc," right? The Catalonian version comes on, right? And they felt the need to do this, and this is the only difference. El próxima estación, Col Blanc. Just the lisp. That was it. That was the only difference with the whole thing. Was the
culturally sensitive.
Exactly. So instead of estación, it was estación, and that was the only difference. Initially, I thought maybe they were just repeating it, but they weren't, because the lisp is that clear. Prominent.
Yeah.
They felt that it was necessary to do this second translation with just the lisp. And I guess the other funny part was, it's el próxima estación, and then the last one was like, the next station is Col Blanc. It's like kind of piratey sounding English guy. So
don't speak with your mouth full. Catalonians speak with their mouth full is what Mad Dog says.
There is an explanation that I heard that I'll have to do a little bit of research, but from what I heard, there was a king or something who had a lisp, and he pronounced things like Barcelona, and then the people just kind of caught on to that.
I'm guessing that this is the same in Barcelona then.
Yes, that was also in Barcelona.
Fuck is a Barcelonian word there?
Yeah.
They really dislike a lot of people. I mean, I understand Trump and Nazis, but damn, they're just throwing in Yankees in there too.
Like, so how I would try to explain the situation in Catalonia to my girlfriend was, I would say that, so Catalonia is autonomous, right? So it's a part of Spain, but it kind of has its own thing. The way I try to explain it was that, imagine if, say, Texas decided, or Texas went through with the talk of secession that they've always been doing. So there's nothing within the American Constitution that would allow for a state to just secede. They could hold their own vote as a sign of like unity and power within the state of Texas, right? Where they can say, we're going to hold a vote to secede, but it doesn't mean anything, and technically it's illegal.
I thought Texas was the only state that had it in there before they became part of the union, that they had the right to secede.
I've never heard that.
I thought we even talked about it.
I don't know. I think if that was the case, honestly, I think that if that was the case, Texas would have seceded.
Well, because there's like criteria.
The last governor that was talking about doing all the time, Rick Perry, was talking about secession. You know what I mean?
And you also have to consider the fact that Republicans wouldn't let Texas just fucking leave.
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah. That would turn the rest of the country. Like, Texas is fucked. Yeah. Pretty much. That'd be like if California and New York just left. The country would be hard red for the rest of its existence.
Yeah. Well, we can get that to a second, because there are some things that you think about that the people of Texas, Republicans, might actually use as an excuse to secede, that people in Europe are using right now to secede. But getting back to what I was saying, so I'm not sure about what their rights are as a state to be able to secede. But
I think to clarified it pretty good. I think it got anything that was there. There's a Supreme Court precedent over it, which says in Texas v. White holds that the states cannot secede from the union by an act of the state. More recently, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia stated if there was any constitutional issue resolved by the Civil War, it's that there is no right to secede.
Yeah, and I think Antonin Scalia was a pretty hardline right side of the court. Not right as in he was correct, but like right politically.
Which judges aren't supposed to be, but anyway.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be in the middle of the road. But that's what I was trying to explain to her, was that, and it's not that she's stupid. It's just that
you're mansplaining, you jerk.
Yeah. You see, I'm tall, so I can do whatever I want. This gentleman here was really the only like noticeable protester that I was able to find, and for obvious reasons, I couldn't ask him any questions.
You could ask yes or no questions.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. But I think at that point I just wasn't.
Gotta be creative.
Yeah, I think I just wasn't prepared at that moment to do that. So I just asked him for a photo, and he was like, "Yeah, sure." But yeah, the way I was explaining though,
yeah, sure. That like he lifted the tape up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you couldn't ask questions.
But I was saying, yeah, if Texas wanted to secede, and basically the U.S. government said no, screw you, we're going to replace your governor. That's what's going on in Catalonia right now. And there's other reasons that Spain doesn't want them to do that, because Spain is to us it may seem strange, but they are ethnically sort of segmented, right? And now a lot of times when people will use the term ethnically, like ethnic, they tend to think like, this is a white person and a brown person. The brown person is ethnic. You know what I mean? Which is the case. So you can be ethnically different and be the same race as somebody. So to be ethnically different just means that there's something else about the group that you're within that glues you together, right? So it could be, for instance, in Spain, it's linguistic things. It's the fact that the people in Catalonia, they have a stronger connection to Andorra and things like that. And the people in the Basque region have their own thing going on because they feel closer to Galatians. And that's sort of what separates them all. It's one of the reasons why I believe that people from the South who identify like you're like kind of rednecky people, which it's slur, but whatever. I think that there are.
I think it's okay if you use it.
I think that some people in the South, especially like your real southern states like Mississippi and Alabama's, those people I think can be considered ethnically Southern. That if they use that term, I wouldn't disagree with it. Linguistically, they're different. Culturally, they're different. The food that they eat is very specific to them. So I think that could fall under being ethnically different. So, but with Spain specifically, the reason I say they're segmented is because in Catalonia, you have your own thing going on there, and Catalonia wants to separate. Now, over in the Basque region, racially, again, they're the same, but the Basque people speak the Basque language, which has no connection to any Latin language. There's actually no real understanding of where the Basque language came from, because it's a Proto-European language, which means it predates Latin. So you know that in places like France and in Spain and Italy, you know that all those languages came from Latin, whereas in Basque, it has no linguistic relation to Latin, and it has no linguistic relation to Germanic languages like German and Dutch and things like that. So they have their own thing going on. So they're worried that if Catalonia separates, then the Basque region is going to want to separate. And then who knows if places like in the Galician region around Asturias, if they're going to decide to separate as well. And then it's sort of like, and we use the term again, it's like a house of cards falling. Or dominoes. It's like the dominoes are starting to fall. And one of the good conversations I had was on my last day in London, before I was coming back, and the gentleman that I stayed with at the Airbnb, he voted to leave the European Union. So he was pro-Brexit, right? And now there are a couple of schools of thought on why someone would want to be pro-Brexit, and some of them are that it's racially motivated, or at least prejudicially motivated. And for a lot of people in the UK, they have a problem with people from Eastern Europe being able to come in and take their jobs, right? The same way that some people in the United States are upset that, you know, there are Mexicans coming over to take your jobs, right? So in London, there are a lot of people coming over from Romania and a lot of people coming over from Poland to work. I know the area that I stayed at the first night I was in London, there were a lot of people from Eastern Europe there. The thing that I found funny, and I'll get back on track here in a moment, was that it's an odd feeling to see people who are racially motivated to hate someone who is lighter skinned than them, right? So they're white people who hate other white people and they consider it to be racism. It's weird. I understand. You know, I get how it is. And my girlfriend made a great point that people in India can dislike other people in India, and you know, it's or people. A great point that she made was actually how people on the continent of India, or the country of India, excuse me, dislike people of Indian ancestry who live in the Caribbean. So they don't like West Indians.
Whoa.
So they see them as less. Some
Traitors
people
or abandoners.
Some people that I've heard the same argument sometimes with you know, people who live in Africa. They kind of feel the same way about black folks that live in the United States. The people that live in Africa, they feel like they're better than them. You know, they're from like a wealthy area like in Nigeria, and they feel like, you know, they're better than the black folks that live in the US. And you can assume that there's some of the same things going on with, you know, white people in the UK looking down upon white people in the US. Hell, if you want to keep narrowing down, you know, white Northerners looking down upon white Southerners, right? So there's all the same thing. I just don't think we would say that was racially motivated. It's not racism, it's prejudice. But they use the term actual, you know, they use like racial over there for Eastern Europeans versus Britons, or whatever you want to call them. So the two main reasons that people wanted to leave was, one, because they didn't like the Eastern Europeans coming over and taking all the jobs, and the second one was they just felt like the UK didn't have enough power over their own rule of law there. So the guy I spoke to was completely fine with people coming over from Eastern Europe, mostly because his wife was Romanian, right? So it worked out for him. But he wanted Brexit because he wanted to feel like the UK had more power. And I think that's the same thing that's going on in Catalonia, which, funny enough, he was rooting for that. He said, I want to see Catalonia win and separate, and I want to see that lead to the Basque region separating, because in his mind, he thought it was a good idea that if all these places started separating, that it would bring down the EU, because he just didn't like the EU. He didn't like that concept, which for me as an outsider, I don't live there, I think it's actually a good idea. They essentially created an economy as big as the United States by working together. You know, the moment, if it ever happens, and he even admitted it, that there's probably going to be a Brexit light, although he would be furious if it happened. That it's going to damage the UK. When they pull away, there's going to be something that happens that hurts them economically, since they're not as open with some of these other places anymore. But it would also damage the UK. But it was interesting. That was a great interview that I had. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I don't know if I just rambled on there and didn't make any sense, but that was one of the things that I was able to touch on with somebody, that it gave me a little bit of an insight as to what's going on over there, not only in the UK with Brexit, but also with what's going on in the Catalonian region and what could potentially go on in some of these other regions of Europe.
I was going to leave in silence.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, it's not something that we know a lot about, or at least I don't know a lot about that. So it's interesting to hear your firsthand experience of what the culture is like over there, what the similarities are, and what the differences are. You know, it's interesting, some things that just seem to kind of manifest under different circumstances, just almost as a part of human nature.
Yeah. And I think we were hearing about that right when you left, as far as the Catalonians, you know, having that vote and wanting to secede or whatever. But as soon as you got there, like, you're experiencing it in real time, and it just goes to show how geographically this information stops traveling. Like, once you were there, like, I didn't hear about it anymore. It stopped like being in the news, and the only reason I still knew it was happening is because you would mention it, and you share those pictures with us. But over here, it was like said and done, and it's just crazy how something as big for a first world country to go through, and it just be kind of put to the side here. So it makes you think, like, how does that what's the same effect in other countries for the things that happen here, whether it's gun violence, whether it's whatever Trump said this week.
I think it's hard for us to kind of grasp the concept of what could happen over there with people wanting to split off. We can to an extent, right? But for the most part, the United States is very homogenous from one end to the other. We only have about 4 very specific accents. This is as an example. We have about 4 specific accents in the U.S., right? So you have like a Southern accent, you have a Midwestern accent, you have maybe you could say the Valley Girl accent over in California, and then like the New York or Boston sort of accent, right? Or we'll just say New England accent. So you have about 4, right?
And then everything else is like a variation of that.
Exactly. And that's within the entire country, right? But within the UK, as an example, something that isn't even the state of Florida is the same size as the entire country of the UK, right?
Almost Canadian accent.
So, and within the UK, they have like something to the extent of like 20 plus distinctive accents. And you could say even to an extent like native languages, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
because in Wales they speak Welsh, and in Ireland they may still speak Gaelic, and I think there's a Gaelic form of Scottish too. We don't understand what that's like. Now you take that and you make it bigger to something that is the size of the United States, and you can just pass through these different regions. You can drive 20 miles south. You'll be in Amsterdam, drive 20 miles south, and you're in Brussels. Not 20 miles, but like an hour south into Brussels, and they're speaking a completely different language. You know what I mean? You drive a little bit north, they're speaking a completely different language. They have linguistic continuums in these areas. So what that is imagine, again, we'll just use Florida as an example, because Florida is a very linear state. But imagine that from the distance from Jacksonville down to Miami, within like every hour's worth of drive, within that 6-hour drive, you get a completely new language. And that's how it is there.
What a mess.
What are they doing? What we have going on here?
No. If you drove 6 hours and there was different languages every time, I was just thinking that's a mess.
That's what it is. And the funny thing is, right, so it's a linguistic continuum, which means that if you're in Jacksonville, you drive an hour south to St. Augustine, right? Those 2 languages would be able to understand themselves decently. It'd be different, but they'd understand. But if you go from Jacksonville, you skip St. Augustine and you go to Daytona, the people in Daytona and Jacksonville wouldn't be able to understand each other. And then by the time you got down to Melbourne and on to Fort Lauderdale and Miami, those 2 languages would be so far apart, even though they were related, that those people wouldn't be able to communicate.
Jeez.
And that's how it literally is in the region between southern France over to Portugal. There's a linguistic continuum, and it changes every little bit, like every fucking hour's drive.
Yeah.
The language is just a little bit different. And I think for us that's kind of hard to grasp. But yeah.
Well, I grasp it. I just think it's insane.
Yeah, it's cool. But for me, it's really cool.
Yeah.
What did I miss in the comments? The Phillies.
Silk Penny says, I have a complaint about Florida. It's like Tennessee, too damn long. I propose North Florida and South Florida, so when on I-95, you feel like you're actually getting somewhere new.
You know what's funny is because we're talking about all of this, a state seceding from the Union is highly improbable. Not impossible, but highly improbable. But a state splitting up is it's possible.
Yeah.
Again, improbable, but it's possible. More possible than a state seceding.
Like we always say that Florida should just lose everything that's in the other time zone and just call it whatever.
Florida and then West Florida.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that's something that's been proposed. So over in California, they've proposed breaking California up into like 4 different states, right? This is recent, like within the past couple of years. There's also been someone who has talked about breaking Florida up into North Florida and South Florida. That's something that's really been thought of. And if you think about it, there's some benefits to that, right?
Yeah.
Because we are a swing state. And we are a swing state because our big cities vote differently. Our biggest counties vote differently from our smaller counties. And most of our counties south, right? So you have Orange
I-4
County.
South.
Yeah, I-4 South. Orange County, Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, Broward, Dade, Palm Beach, right? All those are like solidly blue, with the exception of Pinellas, that has so many people wanting to do their own thing that you're just like, whatever the fuck. So if you take those, and those are also the biggest economical counties within the state, our economic goals and the things that we want for our state are going to be highly different than somebody who's living in the Panhandle. So there's something to be said there to want to separate those 2 states because your interests are going to be different. And that's the same with some of these other states. You don't have a problem with that?
No, I'm going to tell you the problem with that. Let's say there was say the mailman went around and he gave every house, like every month, he gave them $1,000 per person in the house.
Okay.
Right. For whatever reason, the mailman, the lottery, likes his job, likes to see people smile. Gives $1,000 for every person in the house. $1,000 goes to the house. So he comes to a house, and it's a big ass house. It's a 10-bedroom house. In one bedroom, there are 20 people in that one bedroom. All of the other bedrooms just have one person for every room. Okay. Right? So when the mailman knocks on the door, he goes and he gives the person who answers $19,000 because there's 19 people in the house. Then they split up that money per room. So they get the power of being bigger, like Florida has the electoral votes of the exists here, yet they have enough small counties that it can state. If they were to split it up, it would no longer be a swing state, but that South state would be fucking 20 electoral college votes, and that other one would be 4.
Yeah,
I
know that. That's why they wouldn't allow it to be. But I'm saying the interests of the people in the southern half of Florida are vastly different from the interests of the people in the northern part of Florida. So that's why I say that you can understand that as people on our political spectrum why we would want to do that. You know what I mean? That's sort of the idea. I understand completely, though. I know why they would never allow it, because the moment that you allow the state of Florida to be split up to North and South Florida, then there are no more Republican presidents, basically.
And it fucks us, the south part of Florida, because they would just tax the shit out of us to go through to get to the rest of the United States.
They build a border wall between South Florida and North Florida.
Those interstate fees would be ridiculous.
Oh man. Also, great tax plan. The GOP tax plan is what Silk Penny said that you just basically described.
So that's a great thing. I guess we're looking for a way to segue.
I don't know. It's up to you guys.
I think it's a good time to go into TV, comic book talk, and all that. And I guess we can start with TV because this was another thing that we snatched off in Barcelona. If you can see there.
That's awesome.
At the bottom part of it has
really
out
cool.
It says Barcelona. So
Did someone edit that?
no, that's actually the poster.
Wow, that's cool
the
as shit.
poster that they used for it. So,
I
and
mean,
they're hyping the fuck out of Stranger Things. Like I actually took some photos of some trains over there that had Stranger Things all on it. The subway stops. They have Stranger Things everywhere. Actually, the little girl on that show, Bobby Brown, she was born in Spain. I don't know if it was because her parents were just there or if she's actually
she has
Spanish,
an accent. Yeah.
but she was born in Spain. So that's a little interesting tidbit there. So have either of you started watching season 2?
I finished that bitch.
I finished it. Yeah.
I've been gone. I haven't. Don't kill it for me.
Killing
Without
me.
any spoilers. Without any spoilers, just kind of give me an idea of how you thought about it.
Steve rules.
Yeah. Steve, it's crazy that Steve was like the dude that you didn't really like in the first season, and this season, I'm just like, man.
Steve when I grow up.
Yeah, Steve. But you know what? I enjoyed the new characters. I enjoyed Billy, even though he's like like what Steve was the first season, I guess you would say. And I think he's really set up to doing something in season 3. I think. That
scene with him and the mom was the most random and amazing thing that's ever happened on TV.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you noticed, but when she was reading the book, the dude on the book. Yeah, okay.
Looks just like It was,
I'll probably binge watch over the weekend. So.
So yeah, Silk Penny says more character development. Also thought it was scarier. There was one scene that I will say I was like, oh shit, that kind of is creepier than the first season.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it, man. I haven't heard any bad things at all. We were even on the plane coming home, and I caught in the peripheral. Some guy was watching his laptop, and there was some weird shit on it. I thought it was like some like old Twin Peaks shit. And it was just like this, like a black background and a lady's face, and it kept on going back and forth. And then I was like, that's probably Stranger Things. And I told my girlfriend, I was like, don't look. It's this. And that's what it was. It was Stranger Things. So I caught. Yeah, there was. I don't really. I can't remember exactly how to describe it, but it was something like that. There was something with a lady's face, and it kept on switching back and forth. It was like you're looking at her face. I'm not sure. I'm not sure
because I think maybe I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Cordero. I think he's talking about Rainbow Room.
Oh yeah,
great gay club, by the way.
Huh?
Great gay club, by the way. I think that actually was a club. I think that's a gay club in like downtown Tampa, like on North Tampa Street or something like that.
Yeah.
Is it on down? I thought it was on Bush. There might be 3 of them. It might be like Chinese restaurants. There's like 18 China Dragons.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but the opening music was actually one of the tracks from Stranger Things.
Oh, was it? I didn't know.
It sounded familiar, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a huge soundtrack dude when it comes to shows, man. But I can't say enough. I enjoyed the hell out of Stranger Things. It's like a fun ride, and I haven't figured out what the what's the right word? How they do it. Like, what's the trick into like why I'm so hooked into it? Like, it's not necessarily the most unique story, so to speak, but it's also told in a way like where they do the Dungeons and Dragons twist to everything. It's like, hey, we know this is a lot like Dungeons and Dragons. That's what makes it interesting, and that's how we like figure things out, based on like so like we don't take ourselves too seriously, and like you actually like these kids. I don't know what the recipe is, but I'm fucking eating it all up.
So what's the
an awareness of what people like, and another thing that they do really well here is that they have these episodes that all pretty much end on a cliffhanger, but it ends on a cliffhanger that feels like progression. So it's almost like when you're playing a video game and you like get to the end of the level, it's like you're going to the next level, but you feel like you accomplished something.
I just thought to myself, I was like, what if you had to watch like 40 hours of Stranger Things? You could watch.
You can watch. Fun fact: you can watch every episode of Stranger Things, like both seasons, about like 4 times
before you get to play Darth Vader.
Yeah, there's like 8 each season, and they're like just up under an hour. So, yeah, you could watch. Yeah.
Man, I really wish you finished because there is.
I will. We'll chit chat about it more, but as a quick,
just remind me to talk about the ending scene. That's all.
All right, I will. As a quick, let's do our new, I don't know, MDQ rating. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, Danny, what do you give the new Stranger Things season 2?
Literally, I'm trying to think of a reason to give it a 9 instead of a 10. So. That should tell you.
We'll go with 9.5. Cordero.
I'm going to give it a 9 because there was one episode that I felt was a huge deviation from the main plot, even though it was kind of necessary.
I think I heard about that one.
It seemed like they were setting up a spinoff or something.
Not a spinoff, but I think like characters for season 3.
Yeah, that's what
they're gonna do some other thing. So I know they're setting something up, but I felt like they were setting something up, and that kind of took me away from the main story a little bit. Even though I really loved the way they resolved that. And
but do you think
the other reason why I took that only took off like probably like a 0.4 for me.
Okay.
I'm taking off a 0.6 because of the demise of a particular character that I felt like didn't deserve to meet their end. And you know who I'm talking about, Danny.
All right, let's go. So we got a 9.5 from Danny, a 9 from Cordero. So anybody in the comments, I'm looking at you, Silk Penny. What is your rating for the new Stranger Things season 2? Yeah. 1 being bad, 10 being the best. Let us know down in the comments. The next thing, moving on to, I guess, movies, which was the newest comic book movie that came out that I went and saw. Cordero, I think maybe you were going to see it. Have you seen it yet? So, Danny, you're left out of this one. And I think that, go ahead, Mike Gage, real quick.
Silk Penny gave it a 9.5. And
nice.
they had the same issue with that one episode. So we understand. I will say this real quick before we go to the movies. I think it makes a difference between if you stopped at that episode or you started that episode. But if you binged from the episode before to the episode after, you don't have that feeling as much.
Yeah,
is my opinion. Anyways. What's up, Zombie Waffle Punch? How's it going? You are at the end of our show where we derail into comic books and TV shows.
Yep. But at least we're trying to give a little bit more thing. We're going to give ratings. So if you haven't watched Stranger Things season 2, the consensus is that it is fantastic and it gets on average about a 9.4 out of 10. Rating. So that's phenomenal. So I saw Thor Ragnarok. Cordero, you also saw Thor Ragnarok?
Yes.
And
fucking amazing.
It was very, very good. There were a lot of high ratings coming out for it, a lot of like good reviews. And I take that with a grain of salt, and then I watched it and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Did you have a particular character or anything that was your favorite part within it? Danny, you don't care about spoilers, do you?
Yes, I do. I care very much.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it.
We won't spoil it.
Favorite characters, Thor was he was really one of my favorite characters in this. I felt like this was Thor the way he is in the comics, and I felt like the best thing about this, like it the pre. And I always love that because it's something that only a film that exists within a universe this big can do. And the fact that they were able to take advantage of that, I thought was really cool. But this is Thor. You know, this is the guy who's like super powerful to the point where everybody else, its stakes are high. The stakes aren't as high for Thor because he's Thor. You know, I really like the them expanding the universe, showing the kind of going further into what Guardians of the Galaxy and
just real quick
set up.
Sorry to interrupt you, Cordero. We're just going to say a quick goodbye and thank you for joining us today, and thank you for becoming our newest Inquisitor to Silk Penny. You have a great night, and we will see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully, join us. Don't be a reason we lose fans. Or go ahead, Cordero. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, sorry, but yeah, I really like Thor in this movie. You know, he's really cool, badass from start to finish. The story was great in this film. All of the Easter eggs were on point. The what it's setting up for the future, what concluded in this movie, everything was done right. I feel like it's a really fun movie and a very interesting twist on the comic run that it's based on, which I thought was really cool. You know, to throw that out there in a different way. So
yeah, I like how they. I've been kind of catching up, I guess you could say, on comic book backstories because with these, and you know, you made a great point about The Walking Dead one time when you were trying to tell me about it, because I didn't know that Walking Dead was based on a comic book until you told me, and you told me that it doesn't. I don't remember if you remember the quote, but it was something along the lines of it doesn't follow the comics, but it follows the you know, like a basic thing.
The characters.
Yeah, you know. So I couldn't, you know, I can't remember exactly what you said, and I realize now that that's sort of how Marvel's doing it with these movies, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a comic that was called Thor Ragnarok, right?
Yeah.
There was an issue. But within this, they also bring in elements of Planet Hulk and the Hulk World Breaker story, which is something I've just been listening to recently, which is like a really cool backstory. Yeah, listening to. I haven't been reading it.
Like an audiobook?
Basically, yeah. You can go on YouTube and find like pages, channels with millions of subscribers with these people that just explain or read comic books to you, and I can get into it. I'm okay with it. So it's kind of cool. But I've been listening to the World Breaker Hulk comic, which basically what happens is there's a group called the Illuminati, right? Which is Professor X, Doctor Strange, Black Bolt from the Inhumans, and I think Iron Man. Reed Richards and Iron Man. So
and
they
get else. Black Panther. Did you say Black Panther?
I didn't say Black Panther.
I think Black Panther is. I think Black Panther is in the Illuminati as well.
All right, but they get to a point where they feel like they can no longer control Hulk. So what they do is they send them on a ship just off of Earth, and he lands on this planet where, you know, he doesn't really know what the fuck is going on, but he ends up making a life for himself there. And essentially what happens, and this, you don't know, none of this has to do with Thor Ragnarok, but it kind of gives you an idea of the elements that they took from World Hulk and put it into the Ragnarok. But you know, the world explodes, something explodes there, and since Hulk is essentially invincible, he comes back down to Earth and literally just like beats the shit out of and kills like every comic book hero you can think of. Like he takes damn, what's his name?
Wolverine.
Wolverine fucked up
and throws his body across the planet.
No, the guy who was in Deadpool and the X-Men, the Metal Arms.
Colossus.
Oh, Colossus.
Yeah. Colossus. That's it. He takes Colossus's arms and just bends them back like aluminum foil. Like shit like that. He annihilates everybody. And the entire X-Men roster kills all, or doesn't kill them, but fucks up all the X-Men, fucks up all the Inhumans, fucks up like everybody, just takes them out one by one. And
there's some people that he shouldn't be able to take, but he, you know, the story needed him to get through them.
Yeah. Well, they say that the angrier the Hulk gets, the stronger he gets, and he was so angry that he could take out anyone. But that was cool. But there were elements from that comic that they incorporated into Thor Ragnarok, which I thought was really cool too. And there are some things. So one of the, I don't think this is a spoiler, but I think this is like, you know, for people that are heavy into the comics, they know that Thanos, his love interest was it Lady Death, Mistress Death. So the main villain in Thor Ragnarok is Thor's sister Hela.
You might be. That's you might be venturing into
spoiler
territory.
Well, no, this is more speculation.
Nah, you're venturing into.
You got more information than you think you know.
Yeah, I got You're venturing into spoiler territory.
All right. But you agree with me on what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there's well, I initially felt the same way, but it's way too late for them to properly set that up with Infinity War coming out in 6 months. I think Thanos' motivations as they stand right now are enough. I don't think they really need to add that element. So yeah, we'll see, but I don't think they're going to go that direction.
Have you guys ever seen What We Do in the Shadows?
No, not familiar.
Sounds really familiar. Is that on Netflix?
No, it's on Amazon, and it's got Jermaine Clements.
No, I haven't seen
from
that.
Flight of the Conchords. I was just asking because he directed Thor Ragnarok also, and apparently people say, like, if you like that, you'll like What We Do in the Shadows for whatever reason.
Taika Waititi?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was. I would say this. It's because I'm like you, Danny. Like for the most part,
the Conchords. I haven't. Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what else he's up to.
You like the main guy from Flight of the Conchords?
Yeah,
he's in
Jermaine and Brett.
He's in Legion. So, like, Legion's a fantastic comic book show. Like, I'm telling you guys are sleeping on Legion. That's good. And I guess I don't know what the fuck happened since I've been gone, because I watched like the first 3 episodes of Gifted, and I was like, it's okay. But now they're like, you know, another halfway through the season, and the reviews are coming back that it's like the best comic book show that's been on TV in a while. So I don't know what the fuck's happened.
Oh, okay.
but now the Gifted is like getting like all these great reviews. So I'm gonna have to catch up on it. And check it out.
Cordero
Did we talk about on here real quick? I'm sorry. Did we talk about Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe ever?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Cordero, did you ever watch Rick and Morty?
No.
You are slacking.
I did not.
So
I did not.
Did either of you guys ever watch F is for Family?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I've been watching that since it first came out.
I watched the episode where his son broke the TV and he wanted to go get it, and I didn't think it was bad, but it wasn't good enough for me to continue watching.
Keep watching. It gets good.
Yeah.
But the reason I ask is because I have another animated show on Netflix that is fucking absolutely amazing and hilarious called Big Mouth. Have you seen that? It's like on the top list, and it's like all like pretty much A-list comedians doing the voice. It's animated, but it's kids going through puberty and all the funny
Wait, is
shit
that the one with
it
has like a there's like the woman, the lady puberty, and she's like
hormone monsters. They're hormone monsters for each of the characters.
I saw the preview for it, and it did look funny.
Yeah. Me too.
And like great comedians doing voices for a bunch of people. So I'm gonna go ahead and recommend that. And that one's a little shorter, so you can jump on that now instead of taking forever on Rick and Morty.
Let's see. Moving on, I guess we have the big one that comes out tomorrow, which is the Justice League.
And Gal Gadot's not going to do the sequel if what's his name doesn't get out of the production of that movie.
If who?
I forget the guy's name.
I gotta be honest, I wasn't sure that
Zack Snyder.
No. Some producer.
Joss Whedon.
No.
Oh, a producer. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was fake news or not because the link was like not a reputable source. So I didn't.
It's on Google News.
Okay.
Under groping.
There's
She's got the power.
Batman isn't out. That Ben Affleck is not interested anymore in the in being Batman.
Wait, what?
He's fucking awful. I don't think anybody.
Well, that answers Zombie Waffles Punch's question about Batfleck.
I think Ben Affleck has been really good though for playing this particular era of Batman. I think he's pretty good.
I will say this: if they decided to change Batman, and it's weird to pluralize that. I don't think that would be as jarring as if, say, they decided to change out Wolverine in the middle of, what's his name's tenure, because the Batman character has been changed so many times. It's not that big a deal. I think people would be like,
in our lifetime, there's been like 6, right?
Yeah.
Like you had. You had Keaton, you had
Kilmer.
George Clooney, you had Val Kilmer, Christian Bale, and then now Ben Affleck. So that's 5. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm leaving someone out. But yeah, that's 5.
Did we talk about Homecoming?
Then you had Lego Batman, Will Arnett.
I guess so. I guess yeah.
We talked about Homecoming.
About what?
Spider-Man Homecoming.
I haven't watched it yet. I've been meaning to.
It's worth it. I know you have your beef with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but
you just don't like the lighter stuff, right?
Yes, but see, the difference is with Spider-Man, like, you can't make that dark. It's not a dark story. It's a teenage kid, So I might be able to pass on that.
Yeah.
Or, watch it.
It's
but
good. What I'm really excited for is Venom. It's rated R. And I don't know, like, I've always been a fan of Venom. Like, he was like one of my favorite just characters growing up. So I'm looking forward to that.
That reminds me, there is rumors that Disney is looking at buying 20th Century Fox.
That was the next thing I was going to bring up. So I guess they were really close at one point, and then they just finally fell out. Like, it got really close. I think that it'll probably, because they were only going to buy a segment of 20th Century Fox. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's the in film, and the thing is, Fox. It's not so much Disney, going out looking to buy Fox as much as Fox is looking to sell, and Disney is where they have the most potential because Disney already has Star Wars. They already have the Marvel properties, and I believe with Fox, if the contract that Fox has for X-Men and the Fantastic Four films, they have to release a film every 7 years. But if they go under or sell or anything, then the rights would revert back to Marvel. So those are like some of the most expensive or most valuable properties that they have. So if they can sell them to Marvel, then they get the money for that. But if they don't, then Marvel gets it anyway. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I think it's in their best interest really to go with Marvel. They could go with one of the bigger the other big studios as well, Warner Brothers or something, but they're going to get the most money if they go with Marvel, I think.
Yeah. There was a time when we used to say that, okay, these things were never going to cross over. You were never going to get, Spider-Man into the Marvel Universe and all that. And now I'm learning, okay, one, they got Spider-Man, even though Spider-Man's still under Sony. The one thing that I just learned, which I don't know if a lot of people know, the Hulk is not owned by Marvel. He's owned by Warner Brothers or something like that.
No, there's this distribution deal with Universal or Paramount. So Marvel has the rights, but
gotcha. But I was saying that it's a precedent there though. And there are a lot of people that want to see a Fantastic Four movie that isn't fucking awful.
Garbage.
You know what I mean? So at the very least, there's a lot of people that believe that that's going to happen eventually. The Fantastic Four are going to slide over into the Marvel universe. The X-Men, they said if this thing happens and we get the X-Men over to Marvel Studios, you wouldn't see an X-Men like Avengers crossover like immediately. That would still be fucking 5,
you have to build
6,
to it, yeah. It has
exactly.
to make
It'll be
sense.
5-6 years away. You would still get the continuum of what's going on in the X-Men universe as it is now, for that length of time. So
And
all
some
the
cameos,
direct,
probably.
yeah, they would
I
still
don't
be.
see that happening.
I don't even think it would be cameos because they still have to tell their story. They have to end their reign. You know what I mean?
Well, when I meant cameos, I meant in the other direction. In X-Men building their story, getting cameos from Guardians and Avengers and stuff like that.
I can see some, or where even if it's not a cameo, it's a reference, so that they can now start saying the word mutant. You know
The New
what I mean?
York event.
Yeah, stuff like that, where it's not just jarring, where they're like, oh, now we have mutants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they would still have to. They still have like the Phoenix Saga and the New Mutants and all the Deadpool. You guys watched the new Deadpool trailer?
No, that just came out like a day ago, I think.
Yeah.
With Bob
Ross.
Ross.
Yeah, it's like a Bob Ross spoof.
I don't think they'll combine them though. I think they're gonna start. They're gonna start the X-Men all over, and just start from scratch. Because this this universe already has a Wolverine.
That's what
no, they could, because you're not gonna get what's his name back to play Wolverine. Although he did say if they went into the Marvel universe, he would consider it. But I think the way that his tenure ended as that character was so beautiful that you can't bring him back after that.
Yeah,
you can.
Yeah. How can you not see that movie?
I know.
It's really good. I think if they do, the way to bring Wolverine back would be to introduce him kind of as a villain, maybe to, maybe on like a Hulk adventure or something like that. But that'll be an entirely. That'll be a much more difficult thing to set up because Wolverine's one of those characters. It's kind of like Captain America, right? Like you couldn't just introduce Captain America into the X-Men films taking place in the 2000s because part of his story is that he's old and he's from World War II and everything. That it's the same way with Wolverine. Like Wolverine has to have a history. You can't just bring him into the story. This guy suddenly exists. So I have to find a way to make mutants exist and make people hate mutants because that's a big part of their story. Meanwhile, you have like high school kids talking about fucking Thor. So you gotta you haven't seen Spider-Man. So but so because people accept the Avengers. You know what I mean? They already accept Captain America. They already accept the powerful members of the Avengers. So would it be believable for people to hate people who have powers after they already love the Avengers like that?
Well, like in the comics, they had the whole like superhero registry that separated up everybody, to where you still had like I think it was Iron Man wanted the registry, and then like people like Luke Cage didn't want to be a part of the registry. So that could still fall underneath all of that. There was actually one of the things I listened to today was a world where the mutants, the X-Men mutants, were they had like special favors. Not special favors, but they were treated like better than humans. It was the world that Magneto wanted. So there were other superheroes like Spider-Man that in order to get these like to have this better life, they pretended to be mutants. Because if they would have found out that Spider-Man was actually a human, he wouldn't have been able to get certain things. Gotcha. I thought that was kind of cool. So I think there's things that you could do with the whole superhero registry thing that you could work that in. But it would be tricky. It would be tricky. But the Fantastic Four, I think that's someone you could drop in pretty much.
I think that one's worth it mostly for the villains. Like you get like Dr. Doom is like one of the main villains in Marvel, and you don't even need the Fantastic Four really to go into that, especially with them going into the space stories and all of that. Like you would, like you said, Galactus, Kang. There are so many villains that they would get that they could run wild with all kinds of other stories. But
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, yeah, you can easily drop them into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was saying, and like Reed Richards, especially in the comics now, he's like the man who gets everything, you know.
The dude.
So,
So, $1 million question to end it on, I think, since we're low on time, is Cordero staying up to watch The Punisher in 20 minutes, 10 minutes?
I might watch the first episode.
Look at that.
I don't want to pass out on like episode 3 and wake up on episode 5.
Catch a big old spoiler.
Yeah, I did that with a show last weekend. I was watching The Deuce on HBO, which is a really good show. Fell asleep on like episode 6 out of 8. Woke up on the last episode and they're talking about a character that died. I'm like, what the fuck did that happen? And a half had passed by, so I had to go back, watch episode 6 because I wasn't even paying attention. Pay attention, watch episode 7, watch episode 8.
Did you get a feeling of? I mean, I guess it wouldn't be deja vu, but when you rewatched them, did the entire time were you kind of like, I remember this, like you remember just enough of it to where it was like kind of annoying? Yeah, I fucking hate that.
Subconsciously, but you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you remember all the scenes and all that, but you can't like see it past this point, but you remember all of it, and it's just an annoying feeling.
Well, if you were watching Rick and Morty instead of that, it wouldn't have made a difference because you can watch that out of order for the most part. Damn it!
So we didn't touch on Justice League. You guys excited about that?
That's next month, though, right?
No, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Oh, for some reason I thought.
Or for you guys, it's in 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure they have midnight showings.
Yeah, Star Wars is next month. Justice League is actually playing right now.
Yeah, I've heard good stuff. Like I don't know if it's good compared to what's been coming out, but
somebody said that it's better than Batman versus Superman, but not as good as Wonder Woman. I was like, well, that's a huge gap.
I watched Wonder Woman a second time. I watched Wonder Woman a second time on the plane. I haven't watched it the first time either. You haven't watched it yet? Come on, man. Get out of here.
Dude, I told you I've been watching TV shows.
It's awesome to watch her kick ass. I don't know what it is. Or even Valkyrie and Thor. There's something different, you know, like you have all these other female superheroes like Storm and all that, but Storm isn't like just beating someone's ass. She's like, oh, come to me, wind. You know what I mean? Like when you see
Hurricane Irma.
When you see Gal Gadot do like her leg sweep and all that, it just looks badass as fuck, man. You don't get to see that.
The choreography is fucking on point in Wonder Woman. Like it's not just like, you know, you throw a punch and 5 guys fly with no contact. Like they really make sure it makes sense how everyone reacts to her movements and the punches. They did a great job with that. But with Justice League, Rotten Tomatoes right now, 36%.
Really?
36%.
Did you hear that Rotten Tomatoes was actually holding off? Rotten Tomatoes was holding off. Yeah.
Till now.
They have like a little web series that they're trying to start where they reveal the Rotten Tomatoes score during their show, which is just shit. It's a terrible idea. They're gonna get torn apart. It's gonna ruin their reputation.
You know why they're doing it? They're like, hey, I heard this video thing is big, so how do we make our site into a video thing?
Yeah.
And it's so amateur. It's so fucking amateur. Like it's why would you do that? Why? They're gonna ruin what credibility they have, and people are already starting to dismiss it because they're rating movies like they're rating fun movies like they're supposed to be fucking Citizen Kane.
Oh, jeez.
You know what I mean? Like they're like with this Batman versus with Justice League. No way it's 36% bad, and I'll rip apart a fucking movie.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything bad about it. So to hear that it has a 36% rating sounds like bullshit to me.
I've heard the same things I've heard about DC's films, with the exception of Wonder Woman, is that they cut a lot of it out. Like the pacing is off, which is true because they cut 50 minutes out of this one. They cut like 45 out of Batman versus Superman. They chopped up Suicide Squad. Half the trailer wasn't in the fucking movie. You know what I mean? So they have a history of doing this shit. Yeah, and I've already heard some scenes from the trailer, like big scenes from the trailer, are not in the movie. So I've heard some shit. I heard the CGI. So sad about that. I'm still gonna check it out. I'm still gonna see it and have a good time. But yeah, if it's shit, I'll call it shit.
Cordero, did you get the movie pass?
No, I haven't gotten that. And now was the time to get it because all of these releases. I watched 2 movies 2 weekends in a row. I watched Murder on the Orient Express this past weekend.
Is the movie theater by your house or by work or anything?
There's one near my house, yeah.
Because somebody told me like the genius plan for if you have that or whatever. Where is this? Here it is to get the movie pass and then like on your lunch break or every day where you pass the theater, buy a ticket to a movie you're not gonna watch and collect the rewards that the theater has. And so when you actually go, you'll have like free popcorn. You'll have all the free shit, and eventually you'll get the free tickets for for somebody else or whatever too. And so you still only pay $9 a month. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, just buy the tickets online and boom, you're good. You don't even have to go to the theater.
Well, yeah, I guess not. No, because you get the convenience fee or whatever. They don't cover that.
And I hate that because it's convenient for them. Like, you don't have to have an employee that they're paying print out a ticket or anything like that. Like, I hate these fees that they're the convenience fee on all of these different bills when it's like I'm the one. It's for your convenience, like your benefit of this. It was going to be free for me either way. I have to actually spend the money.
Like I have to go to the place anyway because I'm going into it, so it's actually inconvenient.
Extremely inconvenient. All these different fees, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I know it sucks. I saw I was reading some of these reviews before the Rotten Tomatoes score was out, and people were mentioning the CGI being bad. It's like, this movie has a $300 million budget. How the fuck is the CGI bad?
I want to know.
And there's only like one fucking robot.
Yeah. I want to know who's the freaking jerk that keeps getting these movies, Suicide Squad, and like obsessing is like, no, let's chop it up. Let's do this. Let's move it around. It's like, just let it. Okay, you've done it a few times. You've done it with Batman versus Superman. You've done it with Suicide Squad. I don't know if they did Wonder Woman. Hey, for this one, let's just let it go.
Wonder Woman's the only one they left alone, and it's the only one that has a good fucking rating. It's the only one that people even consider good. It's the only one that had legs after the opening weekend and word of mouth got out. Like, it's the only one, and it's the only one they left alone. And the reason that they're doing it is because they go out and they get these directors who do these like epic films. Basically, they get these directors who put together this big story that ends up being 2 hours and 30 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes sometimes. Problem with that, typical movie theater will have 5 showings for a film. If the movie is closer to 3 hours long, they can only have 4 showings. So you're cutting 20% of your profits off of opening weekend
per day.
So if the movie opens up, and you look at it was projected to do like 100 million, 150 million.
Yeah.
Ends up coming in at 20. It looks like it's underperforming when it's not. There's only so many times you can actually show the film. So that's one of the big things that goes into it. And also the suits in the studios figure that the shorter the movie is, better people will understand it, the more they'll like it, more they'll come back to see it. So
they apparently don't watch movies because that shit is jarring when they do that.
Oh yeah, you can tell. Like, it's the most infuriating thing I feel for a moviegoer is to go to see a movie, and then you're walking out and you're saying like, "Hey, what happened to that scene in the trailer when this cool thing happened? That fucking come see this movie."
Yeah.
There's one of the scenes in the trailer that I've heard is not in the movie. Is one that I think if I go and I see it and it's not in the movie, like it's going to be like, how did you even get away with that? That was the fucking draw. Like that was the
yeah. Which scene would it be? Would it be when what's his name throws Aquaman?
No, well I don't know if that one's in there, but the one do you want me to tell you which one? You want me to tell you which one that I've heard isn't in the movie?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, because we both don't know. So. Which one?
It's technically a spoiler.
Okay.
I guess if it's not the movie, then it's not a spoiler. But the scene where Alfred says he said you'd show up at
the Green Lantern.
Is it no? I mean, we don't know who it is because it's no one because it's not in the movie. They cut that scene out of the movie. They did that shit with Suicide Squad and like it's.
There's only one time that works, and it's only ever worked one time, and that is for the Paranormal Activity movies because they give you fake scares and fake scenes. So when you go, you're expecting one thing and you get something else. Only time that works.
Yeah, and it's one thing to like change things up, but if it's something that you're using as marketing to get people to see the movie, like, and it seems like a plot point, like it seems like something like, oh, I wonder what that is, and that's not even there, like that's just false advertising to me.
Yeah. I was here for that one scene.
Yeah. So hey, I hope it's good though. I hope I enjoy it really. Consensus is that it's not good, but I hope I enjoy it.
Ugh.
Who was it? Was it you and me, Danny, that both think like I thought Batman versus Superman wasn't bad? Did you say you hate it? Yeah, no. I thought it was pretty good.
I'm the one who didn't like it. I hated that fucking Martha. That was ridiculous.
That's stupid. That's stupid.
It would be more impactful if he said, "I gotta save my mom." It would have been so much simpler. You'd have pathetic. You know, there wouldn't have been the "Why did you say that name?" It would have been like your mom.
But we wouldn't stop beating him if that was the case.
If he said, "I have to save my mom," because Batman thinks this person is not he doesn't see the humanity in him. You know, so if he says, "I have to save my mom," and then his girlfriend shows up, it's like, damn, this guy's like got a Facebook account, like he's a person, and I'm ready to kill him. You know, but yeah, that movie had a few issues that bothered me, and it felt like it was missing a lot, but it wasn't as bad as. I think it was like a 27 or some shit like that on Rotten Tomatoes. Like it wasn't dog shit. And they said it was dog shit.
Yeah. They already used Rotten Tomatoes. You don't have to like ad-lib it and add some other garbagey thing.
Yeah, they said this person, like our friend Joe, says this movie is an A+. The cast and crew give 2 thumbs up.
Friends and family said they will support their friends and family and watch this movie.
Martha really liked it.
Both of them. Martha and Martha. Anyways.
Yeah, I think that's the last of the big movies coming out. We have The Punisher. I guess we will have all watched it by then. We will have our review ready by next Thursday, I'm assuming, for The Punisher.
I don't know if I'll get the entire season done. I don't know how many episodes are in there. But
yeah, it could be 13, or it could be 8.
But
yeah, sure.
Why don't we wrap it up? Since I'm a little beat.
Yeah.
And we'll host somebody. We haven't done that in a while. I'll just pick this random girl. You guys can join on the raid. Is a new command on here. Let me see how I bring that up. If I can figure this out. Anything you want to close with, Shane? There.
Oh no, it's fun. Good to be back. Looking forward to the new movies coming out. I did interview one person while I was gone because I have a show. So we will actually have a regular podcast episode out first, and it's going to be probably a 3-part series that I'm going to do where I interview people who go do things that you wouldn't expect people to do. So this is a friend of mine that I work with who, he trains. Well, I mean, you kind of need to know this premise to to understand what's going on. But I work with him. He's a trainer. He's bartended for a long time. He has his own sort of like gig, his own sort of job, not job, excuse me, his own business where he does like bartending for hire and all that. But he just got really politically active, and then last year decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to run for office. Cool. So I feel like not a lot of people know people who ran for office, so I think it's cool. So I think I got a 3-part series I'm going to do. His will be the first one, and then I'll do another one with people who got into music and then didn't stop after high school because someone told them that you couldn't do it anymore. You know what I mean? And
so then, definitely not me. Got it. or you.
Although I continued on a little bit, but. Yeah, so the whole thing will be about people who just continued on doing something that someone told them that they wouldn't be successful at or something like that. So,
anyways, if you guys look at the chat, you'll see a raid thing come up. And if you just hit join, you guys will be able to join us as we raid this other person. So hit join, Shane.
I only
get 30 seconds to do it. Look at that. And it'll help us grow. And besides that, we'll be back here again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, guys have a good night, okay? That's all I got.
See you. Peace.